The Protector Chapter 851. Wesley. Michael was livid with rage when he heard Wesley's comment. "Michael, I'm afraid you really made a grave mistake by handling the matter this way. Yes, Emma was wrong to give birth to him back then, but still, he is your grandson. How can you let him live on his own outside and be labeled as a bastard by everyone else?" Michael was left stumped in the face of Wesley, who was glib-tongued. At the same time, he knew the Joneses in Chillshire had gained an upper hand by discovering Levi's existence. "I reckon you will let the kid attend the coming anniversary dinner? Alternatively, you can kill him before that and I will pretend I know nothing about him." Wesley deliberately said so to provoke him. Michael had no other choice but acknowledge Levi's identity. "As he's my grandson, of course he will attend the anniversary dinner. In fact, I wanted him to live on his own outside so that he could become tougher and more independent." He understood that if he refused to admit to the fact that Levi was his grandson, Wesley would immediately reveal it to the public through the media. By the time it happened, his family would suffer great embarrassment. "Very well, I will look forward to see the kid there." Wesley ended the phone call feeling satisfied. Bang! Crack! Immediately after the phone call, Michael smashed his phone on the floor and broke it into pieces. "Levi, oh Levi! What a troublemaker you are! You're going to destroy my family!" Michael cursed angrily. The rest of his family were incensed to learn about Wesley's phone call. "Levi has always been a ticking time bomb for our family. Now, he's about to blow up any minute and bring us down with him. I'm sure the other branches will seize the chance to humiliate us at the anniversary dinner because of him. Are we able to bear with such a degrading moment at that time? Exactly. Our family is going to be ruined for good just because of him. Now, not even the god of war can come to our rescue, and he might even give us a piece of his mind because of the scandal." The face of all of them flushed with anger as an overwhelming desire to slaughter Levi immediately grew in their minds. They could already picture what would take place during the anniversary dinner. Everything was going to be destroyed by the bastard, and the Jones family in Southampton would be turned into a laughingstock. Michael fumed. "I really can't figure out how those in Chillshire found out about Levi's identity. Grandpa, I was told by one of my men that Levi had a secret meeting with Travis from Chillshire earlier today. I bet they've been in touch all along," Tyler said. He added, "Things are becoming very clear to me now. I'm sure Levi must have contacted those in Chillshire to ask for their help so that his identity as your grandson could be properly acknowledged. How cunning he is!" Every one of the family looked enraged because of Levi. "I told y'all not to underestimate Levi long before this. In this way, not only will he be properly recognized as the heir of our family, but he can also make sure we treat him nicely instead of bullying him with the protection of those from Chillshire." Michael got breathless with anger after pointing that out. "Grandpa, what should we do now then?" A deep crease emerged on Wales' forehead. The Protector Chapter 852. "What else can we do? Of course we have to bring him back. Otherwise, do we want the media to tell everyone in Arudaya that I have an illegitimate grandson?" Michael bellowed fiercely. "Grandpa, we won't go and invite him back because he's just a piece of crap who isn't worth our effort." Wales and Tyler expressed their reluctance to bring Levi back. "We won't do that either." The rest of the family rejected to take the task too. "Just let Mia and her family do that." Everyone pointed their fingers at Mia and her family, who had the weakest say in the family. "Sounds good to me." Before long, Mia and her family traveled to South City to visit Levi. "Levi, are you finally happy now?" Mia's father, Calvin Jones, confronted him with a note of sarcasm in his voice. Because of Levi, they were shunned by the rest of the Jones family in South Hampton. Things just got worse because Levi was going to put the entire family in embarrassment. As one of the Jones family, hatred was the only sentiment they had for Levi. Eh? What do you mean by that? Levi questioned him in puzzlement. Humph. You deliberately revealed your identity to those in Chilshire to compel my father into acknowledging you as his grandson, didn't you? Calvin's anger only intensified by the confused look on Levi's face because he assumed Levi was feigning innocence. You should be pleased because you've successfully achieved your purpose. Now, my father is willing to acknowledge you as his grandson and he sent us here to tell you about that, Calvin snapped angrily. Haha, Levi chuckled. Michael might want to acknowledge him but the intention was not mutual. What the hell was this all about? Come back home with us now if you want or you must show up at the anniversary dinner 5 days later. Calvin barked. Okay. Tell Michael I'll be there. Levi responded with a smile. He would attend the event as the bastard of the family as well as the god of war. Haha, Calvin gave him a scornful laugh. At first, he thought Levi would have enough backbone to give up the identity as one of the Joneses and refuse to attend the anniversary dinner. To his surprise, he agreed to be there so readily. Because of that, Calvin despised him a great deal. Levi, please don't take what my father said too seriously. He just cares too much about the image of the family but he means no harm. Mia walked over to console Levi. I'm not bothered by it. Levi liked his younger sister Mia fairly well. Mia, what are you telling him? Get back here now. You'd better stay away from him in the future. Even when he becomes one of us in the future, you should refrain from getting too close to him because the blood that runs in him isn't as noble as ours. You will put yourself in embarrassment if you are seen hanging out with him. Calvin warned her sternly. As pious believers that people were divided into different classes, everyone in the Jones family deemed Levi as one who belonged to the lower class while all of them belonged to the higher class. Dad, what nonsense are you talking about? Levi is one of us too. Mia then spun around to shout at Levi, Levi, I'll wait for you at the anniversary dinner. Great, I'll be there. The Protector Chapter 853. The anniversary meeting of the Jones family was advertised so well that even Zoe was aware of it. Are you going to be there? She looked for Levi and asked him about it. In fact, she was mainly curious to see how he thought about the event. As far as she knew about him in the past, he would not want to waste his time attending the event nor would he want to accept the identity as one of the members of the Jones family. Staring at him with anticipation palpable in her eyes, she fervently hoped to hear the answer she preferred from him. I'm going to be there because they invited me, Levi replied nonchalantly. What? At that moment, Zoe's eyes were filled with much disappointment because Levi was no longer the lofty guy who thought he was superior to everyone else in the world. What took its place was a soul that was willing to compromise for some worldly gains. This wasn't the version of him she would like to see. Levi then asked her with a smile, would you like to go with me? He wanted to bring her there to see how he was going to shine and leave the Jones family in stupor because of his glory. To his dismay, Zoe turned him down decisively. I'm not going. You may attend the event on your own. In her opinion, it was utterly humiliating for Levi to accept the identity as one of the Joneses. On top of that, she was really taken aback by his sudden change of attitude because he had told her that he would ignore them for the rest of his life some time ago. Iris, who happened to come by, noticed the exasperated look on Zoe's face. Out of curiosity, she queried, Zoe, what's the matter? Levi just said he's going to attend the anniversary meeting of the Jones family. Zoe grumbled resentfully. Hey? Is there anything wrong with that? Iris, by attending their anniversary it shows that he's going to yield to them. The moment he accepts the identity as one of them, he will lose his backbone and embarrass himself. Didn't you hate him for doing things like that too before this? Zoe asked in befuddlement. Iris trailed off hesitatingly as she had no idea how to answer Zoe. Back then, she indeed loathed the fact that Levi got things done by using his connection with the Joneses because she had no idea who he really was at that time. But now, she knew Levi was the owner of Morris Group who clearly did not need help from the Joneses. Zoe, things aren't how you may imagine them to be at all. Perhaps Levi is going to be there too. Show off his might, Iris suggested with a grin. Zoe shot her a supercilious glare and retorted, show off his might? Who is he to show off in front of the Joneses? They are one of the royal families in Southampton. Maybe. Iris, that's enough. It's so obvious that Levi has lost his backbone by deciding to yield to the Joneses. I can't believe he's still going to attend their anniversary after how badly they bullied him. Zoe went on to lament, perhaps it's because my career has been thriving so well lately that he wants to become better so that he is good enough to be my partner. Yes, he's right. He will become good enough or even too good for me once he accepts the identity as one of the Joneses. However, I can't help but look down on him when he gives up his spine like that. I would rather he fight for his career with his own effort. Even though his achievement might not turn out too great, it will still be the fruit of his effort. The Protector Chapter 854. Seeing how Zoe misunderstood Levi so badly, Iris was so anxious that she felt a burning desire to tell her that Levi was in fact the owner of Morris Group and even everything she owned was given by him. He wasn't losing his spine but instead, he had become even stronger and more powerful than 6 years ago. However, she managed to hold back the urge when she recalled what Levi had told her before. While Zoe was complaining, tears started trickling down her face. Does he see me as a vain girl? It doesn't make any difference to me whether he is one of the Jones family members or not. Iris consoled, Zoe, I think you really should believe in him. Since he was already so talented 6 years ago, I believe he won't be too bad now too. I have a feeling that he's become stronger after going through the challenging times in the past 6 years. Zoe shook her head and insisted, I can't see that, Iris. I can't see any hope in him, especially after he started interacting with the Joneses. He's been using his connection with them to settle things very frequently and he will slowly lose the will to fight hard because he's too used to getting things done through the easy way. Iris hurriedly said, Zoe, please give him more time and I'm sure he will be able to prove his talent to everyone soon. For example, I think he will prove it to you at the wedding ceremony by making sure everyone knows that you're the most respectable lady of the entire world. She could only reveal the time when a change would come so that Zoe could be hopeful about things. Haha. Zoe flashed her a faint smile. It was probable that she only saw what she said as a joke. Immediately, Zoe changed the subject of their conversation by asking Iris, by the way, you have yet to tell me who's the boss of Morris Group. Every time I tried to ask you, you would always give me a vague answer. Iris' expression turned stiff when she heard her question. It was all Levi's fault that she was put in such a quandary. Did he really have to go this far just to reveal his identity to Zoe? Oh, there's no point telling you that because you don't know him anyway. Iris had no choice but to answer that way. Seems like he's not a good-looking man, so that's why you aren't interested in him. Much to Iris' relief, Zoe decided to laugh it off instead of pressing on. In the blink of an eye, the day of the Jones family's anniversary had arrived. As the venue of the event, the old manor of the Joneses in Southampton was decorated extensively so that the event was a vibrant and merry one. Two sides of the road leading to the manor were adorned with big red lanterns and family flags which fluttered along with the wind. In fact, it was said that the Joneses had splurged a staggering amount of $2 billion during the preparation of the event. It was easy to see how grand and magnificent the event would be. On the day prior to the event, Mia drove to fetch Levi to Southampton. Soon, she returned to Edinburgh Manor together with him. A board on which two large words Jones family were written was attached to the wall above the main door. It gave the place an imperial and domineering aura. That was the manor which was resided by the royal family. A large troop of security officers stood outside the manor in a line to maintain the safety of the place. "Levi, this way please." Mia showed him the way inside. However, just as Levi was about to enter the manor, a voice came, "It's not that easy to step into Edinburgh Manor." The Protector Chapter 855. Shortly after the voice, Wallace, Calvin, Tyler, and Wales emerged. Escorted by a large entourage, Michael too appeared holding a walking stick, decorated with a sculpture in the shape of a dragon head. Almost all direct descendants of the family were there. Looking intimidating, they stood in front of Levi, who stared at them with a faint smile. "Wait a minute. Levi, I can see that you've been trying very desperately to be here for quite some time already. Do you really want this so badly?" Wales taunted. "Finally you're able to realize your dream after working hard for such a long time. Congratulations for officially becoming one of us," Tyler said sarcastically. Every one of them assumed that Levi had single-handedly plotted against Michael to force him into acknowledging his identity. "But, I have to warn you that it won't be so easy to become one of us," Michael growled all of a sudden. "That's right. You have to abide by our family rules if you want to become one of the family," Wallace chimed in. "Oh? What are the rules?" Levi was amused to hear that. "There are 3 conditions that you must fulfill before you are approved to be one of us." Michael stuck out 3 of his fingers as he explained. "Tell me all about it." Levi was curious to know about the rules. "First of all, you have to kneel down in front of the memorial tablets of our ancestors as well as the seniors of the family. Secondly, you have to change your surname. In the future, you will go by the name of Levi Jones instead of Levi Garrison. Last but not least, you must train yourself to become resilient so that you are tough enough to endure all challenges that come your way in the future. Therefore, you have to be slapped by all the direct descendants of the family." Looking cold and detached, Michael added, "You'll only be allowed to enter the place and be recognized as my grandson after fulfilling all 3 conditions." "What?" Mia was flustered the moment she heard about the 3 conditions. She had never expected that her family would make such a rude demand which was clearly aimed at giving Levi a hard time. The family had at least 200 to 300 direct descendants. If Levi were to be slapped by each and every one of them, would he be able to survive after going through that? Also, it was very humiliating for him to kneel down to the seniors in the family in front of so many people. Lastly, demanding him to change his surname was the most degrading condition of all. All eyes were on Levi at that moment. "What do you think? Are you scared or are the conditions too demanding for you?" "You have to be very clear that we have to follow our family rules because we are a huge and distinguished family. Not every Tom, Dick, and Harry can be accepted as one of us. If you would like to become one of us, you have to follow the rules," said Wallace, as well as some of the Joneses. Noticing Levi's hesitation, Michael fumed, answer me now. Either you complete the 3 conditions or you get out of here now. It was agreed beforehand that they would accept Levi as one of them, but he needed to go through some torture before that. They would never let him in too easily. Tyler sneered, Levi, you have to know that nothing is free in this world. You have to complete the 3 conditions if you want to become one of us. Ha ha ha, Levi let loose a round of guffaw all of a sudden. The Protector Chapter 856. His laughter left every single one of them flummoxed. What was he laughing about? He seemed to be mocking them. Wallace questioned him puzzledly, lad, what are you laughing about? Is our family a joke too? You don't think you can bypass it through any other ways? There's nothing you can do to avoid completing the 3 conditions. Michael stared at Levi sternly. Yes, that's right. You have no other way out. Now, do you want to kneel down first or do you want to be slapped first? One of the Joneses asked. Do I have to kneel down to every one of you here? Who do you think you are? Do I have to change my surname? Who do you think you are? Do I have to be slapped by every single one of you here? Who do you think you are? Levi bombarded them with 3 continuous questions and left them all dumbfounded. The words "who do you think you are" kept on resounding in their minds. How dare you guys treat me this way? You guys don't deserve any of that. Michael chuckled, we don't deserve any of that? We've been one of the royal families and a powerful presence in Southampton for centuries. We own several $100 billion worth of assets and we have properties around the globe. Not only that, but we also have an abundance of talent in the army, the government as well as the business world. Our family has so many merits and achievements that I simply don't have the time to list them all down for you. How dare you say that we don't deserve your respect? Staring right into Michael's eyes, Levi sneered, do you think you guys deserve it? I can destroy every one of you right away just by giving out an order. Do you believe me? His imposing and presumptuous confrontation sent each and every one of them in raging fury. Why, you are looking for trouble, aren't you? There's no way you can step foot into the manor now. Wallace as well as some other of the Joneses seethed. Then I, Levi Garrison, am going to do just that tonight and no one will be able to stop me from doing so. With that, Levi strode off toward the main gate of the manor. You aren't allowed to go in there. Wales immediately stepped forward to block his way. Smack! Levi landed a slap on his face. How dare you! Smack! Tyler was slapped too. Everyone was dumbstruck at the moment as none of them expected such aggressiveness from him. Whoever tried to stop him would be slapped by him. Most importantly, no one dared to retaliate knowing that he was physically trained. Levi, you're getting out of control. I dare you to take one step further now. Smack! To no one's surprise, the person who said that ended up being slapped too. Smack! Smack! Wallace, Calvin as well as the others were slapped and sent flying away by Levi after trying to stop him. As none of them was able to contain him, they could only watch on as he made his way toward the main door of the manor. The moment he was only inches away from reaching the gate, Michael suddenly yelled, "Stop him now!" The security officers standing outside the manor encircled Levi in an instant in an attempt to get him under control. However, it only took Levi a short time to get rid of them as they were flung away by him. Slumping on the ground, all of them groaned in pain. Despite being such a huge family with so many family members, no one was able to stop him. At that time, Levi spun around and shot everyone a contemptuous glance. You Joneses are such a disappointment, he commented with a smirk. The Protector Chapter 857. Smack! Levi walked past the gate and then strode off toward the manor. His firm pace made him look unstoppable, like a divine figure who had just descended onto the mortal world. At the same time, he treated the three conditions laid down by Michael as if they were non-existent. To the Joneses, Levi being allowed to step foot in the premise was a great humiliation. Watching Levi's back, Mia squinted to avoid the glare because his body seemed to be glowing with a powerful aura at the time. All by himself, he managed to deter all of the Jones family members from laying a finger on him. That was so cool and domineering. The mockery he made about the family just now hurt all of them immensely, like a dagger that was stabbed through their hearts. Just a single comment from him was enough to ignite blazes of fury deep down inside them. Infuriated, Michael thundered, "Shadow, throw him out of the manor now." Shadow, who was standing next to Michael, stood motionless despite the order. There was no way he dared to do as Michael ordered. Since Levi was the god of war, Shadow knew he was no match for him. He broke out in cold sweat when he thought of the day Levi found out that he had been secretly tracking Ezra down. Apart from that, he was also well aware Levi could kill him as easily as killing an ant. Therefore, he was not dumb enough to attack him. "Hey! What are you waiting for? Go on and get rid of him now!" Michael shouted anxiously when he noticed Shadow wasn't moving as told. "Master, I..." Shadow lowered his head to conceal his fear. "What are you trying to do, Shadow? Are you defying my order or are you afraid of Levi?" Michael confronted him. His question soon drew everyone's attention. Was Shadow afraid of Levi? How was that even possible? At that moment, Levi had already walked past the gate and was about to reach the inside of the manor. Shadow opined, "Master, I think we should not make too big a fuss out of it because it will look bad on us with so many people around." Michael couldn't help but let out a sigh of frustration. "Grandpa, please just let him go for now. If we really throw him out, those from Chillshire as well as other branches will surely taunt us because of that. I think we should put up with it for the time being and only deal with him after tonight," Tyler suggested. "Sounds like that's the only way to go then." In the end, the Joneses decided to make a compromise by allowing Levi in. No one mentioned the three conditions again because whoever did that would become a laughing stock. In order to make sure the event went smoothly, they had no choice but to treat Levi well. After dinner, Michael approached him and warned, "Don't assume you're one of us just because you are invited to be here. Although I recognize you as one of my family members on the outside, it's not my genuine intention to do so because I don't think you're good enough to be my grandson at all. You're a bastard just like your mother. None of us will admit being related to you in any way." Levi narrowed his eyes at him and asked, "What did you just say? Say it again." "You are a bastard just like your mother." The Protector Chapter 858. After Michael spoke, the atmosphere became tense. Everyone held their breath in anticipation of what was going to happen next. Mia and the rest of the Joneses stared at Michael in disbelief. "Michael is too much." As expected, Levi furiously glared at Michael, with lasers shooting out of his eyes. At that moment, everyone could sense the murderous aura that he emitted. A chill ran down their spines. It's terrifying to see this side of Levi. Nonetheless, these people were not the only ones who noticed the change in mood. Michael was horrified. His pupils constricted, and his Adam's apple bobbed around as he swallowed nervously, feeling breathless. "He is too scary." Levi seemed like a wild animal on the loose, and his gaze alone could kill. With Levi's eyes fixated on him, Michael was covered in sweat, and he felt like puking. Thump! Unable to take it any longer, his knees gave way. He collapsed onto the ground. The glare scared and pushed Michael to the edge. "This man is crazy." "Apologize, Levi ordered. Everyone was shocked by his words. Who knew a bastard child would not only have the guts to step foot into the Jones residence while everyone was there but also demand Michael's apology? He is being ridiculous. Ironically, Levi managed to threaten the entire Jones family even before revealing his identity. To him, the Joneses were as insignificant as ants. I won't. Michael scowled at Levi. There is no way I will apologize to a bastard like you. Michael would rather die. Haha. Michael, you called your own grandson a bastard. You should apologize. For your mistake now, a voice chided as a group of people streamed into the venue. It came from Wesley, the leader of the Joneses in Chilshire. You. PFT. Michael was fuming with anger. Oh no, Wesley saw the scandal. Funny. The more I dread something, the more likely it happens. This is all Levi's fault. Exactly. Michael, you are at fault this time. You should apologize to the bastard. I mean the child. Wesley mocked. This group of people came to watch Michael's family make a fool of themselves. They were more than willing to see the head of the Joneses in Southampton apologizing to Levi. They didn't feel bad for Levi, a bastard child. However, they were looking forward to seeing Michael become a laughingstock. Meanwhile, Levi could read their intentions from their expressions, and he swiftly yelled, "He is not the only one who needs to apologize. You should, too." The Protector Chapter 859. His words hit everyone like a ton of bricks. All the Joneses were stupefied. Wesley and the rest of his family did not expect Levi to direct his anger toward them, too. Do you think I can't tell what all of you are thinking? In your eyes, I am nothing but a bastard child, similar to a wild animal brought up in the wild, Levi snorted. To Wesley, it was unthinkable that a junior would speak to him this rudely. That's not wrong. You don't even know who your father is. Aren't you an illegitimate child, then? We are indeed just interested in witnessing Michael apologizing to a bastard child. Michael was insulted, but he was helpless. This is all because of my illegitimate grandson. Wesley and the rest of his family started to laugh. In contrast, the Joneses from Southampton hung their heads low in shame. It was humiliating, but there was nothing they could do about it. Everything is Levi's fault. Without him, the Joneses from Southampton would be superior and formidable. Regardless, we have the backing of the god of war, so these people pose no threat to us. On the other hand, Levi could not stand being labeled as a bastard child. Although he was indifferent and uninterested in his parents, they still gave birth to him and brought him into this world. That was still a sacred action that should be honored. These people were insulting his existence and dishonoring that action. They deserve to die. Levi slowly stood up and turned his deadly gaze to Wesley and a few others. What do you want? They stuttered, terrified and threatened by him. He looks like he wants to kill us. They could feel the heat from Levi's murderous glare, and it felt like they would die in the next moment. Please, Levi, no, Mia, who was in front of them, stopped him. She was afraid that something bad would happen if the situation persists. Immediately, she dragged Levi out. Phew! Levi let out a sigh of relief when he stepped out. I almost reverted to my heartless self earlier, as though I was back on the battlefield. If Mia did not stop me in time, I would have killed everyone there. It doesn't matter. I'll deal with them at the anniversary meeting tomorrow. After Levi left, Wesley grinned and mocked, Michael, now I understand your position. If I had a bastard grandson like this, there is no way in hell I would acknowledge him either. How is it possible for a child brought up in the streets to be associated with our superior bloodline? exactly. He even wanted to act all righteous and cut ties with us. How can your family in Southampton produce such a grandson? Michael gritted his teeth and clenched his fists as they humiliated him. He wanted to kill Levi there and then. The Protector Chapter 860. If he returns to the Jones residence, he will only bring disgrace to our family. Besides, with that unsophisticated mother of his, they will only make us look worse. These two disgraceful individuals have brought so much shame to our family. Furthermore, this is just the start. At tomorrow's meeting, hundreds of Joneses from Arudaya would be attending. And we will probably face the most humiliation then. We might even drown in the spit of those who have something to say about it. That will definitely be the most embarrassing situation in the history of the Joneses from Southampton. Nonetheless, we can only think of ways to salvage what we have lost right now. Oh yes, have we confirmed the attendance of all our guests? Michael asked. Wallace. Yes, we have, Wallace replied promptly. How about Anson? What time will he come? Father, Anson will be arriving at 9 tomorrow morning. That is the earliest he can come, Wallace responded. Tyler, how about the God of War? Michael turned to Tyler. I have made inquiries, and Mike, the Commander-in-Chief, replied that God of War has reached Southampton. This was a surprise to the Jones family. If the God of War came here a day in advance, he must take their anniversary meeting seriously. The Joneses could finally smile. We have to keep his attendance a secret. We will only reveal it tomorrow so that Wesley and rest get a taste of how powerful we are, Michael exclaimed with pride. With that said, where is he then? Did we arrange anything for him? Tyler happily replied, he said that it was all right and will be there tomorrow. Then it's settled. Everyone, make preparations to welcome him. Our family's reputation will rely on the God of War's presence. Michael could already picture the shocked faces on the other Jones faces. Meanwhile, Levi was whining to Mia, Mia, please bring me around. It's too suffocating for me to stay here. He was afraid that his intention to kill someone would flare up if he stayed here any longer. It would not do him any good if he killed someone. Well, coincidentally, I have a gathering with a few other friends. Levi, you can come along. Sure. Let's go. Not long after, they arrived at a lavish restaurant with live music. There were a few foreigners playing jazz, setting a rather sentimental mood. Mia, look over here, someone suddenly shouted. In the distance, they saw a group of formally dressed youths that consisted of 3 males and 2 females. From their appearance, anyone could tell that they were rich kids. Mia led Levi over to their table. Mia, I thought you didn't have the time to come. Don't you have to prepare for the anniversary meeting tomorrow? One woman asked curiously. At the same time, she scanned Levi from head to toe before asking, who is he? Mia smiled and replied, let me introduce everyone to my cousin brother, Levi. Instantly, one of the men laughed, are you the rumored bastard child of South Hampton? The Protector Chapter 861. Whoa! The group gasped after hearing that, and they all looked at the speaker, Kyle. Why are all of you looking at me? That rumor has spread across Southampton. They said that Levi is a bastard child who only has a mother, while his father's identity remains unknown. They even labeled him as the Jones family's disgrace, Kyle bluntly stated. Boom! Mia's brain was about to burst. She thought that leaving the Jones residence would do Levi some good, yet who knew that they would meet someone who labeled him as a bastard child too. Did you call me a bastard child? Levi calmly asked. Yes, I did. What's wrong with that? Kyle sneered. He knew the Joneses looked down on Levi and could not wait to get rid of him. As such, there was no need for him to be afraid of owning up to it. Besides, if he taught Levi a lesson, the Joneses would probably thank him. "I dare you to repeat it," Levi coldly challenged. There was a hint of anger in his eyes. "You are a bastard child with only a mother and no father." "Happy?" Kyle arrogantly looked at Levi, his gaze filled with amusement. Even his friends around him could not take it. "Kyle, you are going overboard. After all, he is Mia's brother." One of the women, Xenia, could not help but scolded. Kyle conceitedly chuckled. "Well, I am not the only person who is spreading it. In South Hampton, who doesn't know that Levi is an illegitimate child?" Slap. Kyle had just finished his sentence when Levi gave him a tight slap across his face. PFT. The impact made Kyle cough out blood, together with a dozen of his teeth. Unbelievable. No one expected Levi to do that. It only took one slap for him to make a few of Kyle's teeth fall out. "You!" Kyle angrily shouted when he regained his senses a few seconds later. How dare you hit me?" Short of a few teeth, his speech became unclear. He looked at Levi in shock. "You aren't the only one I will hit. Whoever mentions it or curses at me, I will hit each of them till everyone shuts up." Although Levi sounded composed, one could sense the domineering presence he exuded. It made Kyle shake in fear. "My teeth!" he exclaimed and went crazy after seeing his broken teeth strewn across the floor. "Watch out! I will get my revenge against you today," he yelled. Knowing that the relationship between Levi and the Joneses was not the best, he was not afraid of being questioned by the Joneses. He had to get his revenge on Levi for knocking out his teeth. "If you are bold enough, you will wait till I bring my men here," Kyle threatened. Although the others tried to persuade him otherwise, it was no use. "Mia, I think you should leave. If Kyle summons his subordinates, your brother will be in trouble," Xenia pleaded. "Don't worry, I will wait for him," Levi interrupted. "I will punish everyone who calls me a bastard child, and I will do this till no one dares to speak of it again." He coolly took a seat. The Protector Chapter 862. Xenia and the other girl were stunned. He is so assertive. They had never seen anyone as bossy as he was. "Levi, let's leave. There is no need to get upset with such people." Mia was worried for Levi. "Mia, you don't have to worry. If I can't even handle a brat like him, then I do not live up to my name." Levi shrugged and even poured himself a glass of wine. He looked unaffected, as though the situation did not concern him at all. Xenia and Alice's eyes were shining with admiration as they looked at him. Levi was charming and attractive. Since the Joneses would likely not step in to help him, Xenia and Alice anticipated watching him deal with Kyle. It did not take long for Kyle to bring a large group of his subordinates over, who rushed to surround Levi. Kyle's gums were still bleeding and throbbing with pain. He announced, "You are really something. I can't believe you are still here." "Very well, since you broke my teeth, you will have to pay. I want to knock out all of your teeth too. Then, I will pluck out all your nails from your hands and feet until you beg." With hatred, he looked at Levi. Then, he cursed, "You filthy bastard child!" Boom! Crack! In the next moment, Levi picked up the wine bottle and smashed it on Kyle's head. Blood gushed out, and Kyle almost fainted. In the same period, another gathering was happening on the second floor. They all looked unique. Some had bandages on their legs, and some had bandages on their arms. They were the Prince gang from Southampton and their leader, Jaron Goel. The crash of the wine bottle caught their attention. "Oh? Go take a look at what is happening," Jaron ordered. Everyone looked over at the fuss. It is Kyle trying to teach someone a lesson, someone reported. Jaren glanced over at the scene and saw a familiar figure. Immediately, his eyes widened, and he jumped to his feet. That is the leader of Southampton, Levi Garrison. Jaren gasped in surprise. Everyone came to a realization. He is really Levi, their leader. What the hell? Kyle is playing with fire. Everyone angrily stood up and rushed toward them. After being hit by the bottle, Kyle looked at Levi with disbelief and anger. You must die. All of you, I want you to kill him. I will bear all consequences, he screeched like a monster, livid. The Protector Chapter 863. Crack. Another man came forward and smashed another wine bottle on Kyle's head. Blood splattered everywhere, and there were glass shards strewn across the floor. Being cruelly attacked on the same spot, Kyle became disoriented. He furiously turned and demanded, "Who the hell hit me?" "It's me," the man behind him replied coldly. "MMR Goel." Just as he was about to explode, Kyle saw a familiar face that made him cower in fear. "Isn't he Jaren, the head of Prince Gang? Mr. Hunt? Mr. Quinn?" Kyle proceeded to call out the people present. It occurred to him that 40 people from the Prince Gang were there, and they were the most powerful members. They also belonged to either quasi-royal clans or royal families. "All of you, were here." Kyle stuttered in shock. Although he was also from a wealthy family, he could not outrank those from the Prince Gang. Typically, one would turn away to hide if they saw them. Yet, he met them today. "What's wrong? Can't we be here?" Jackson asked frigidly. "Of course not. You can." Kyle hurriedly replied. He broke out in a cold sweat and felt so numb that he no longer felt the pain. However, he did not understand why the Prince Gang would approach him, much less bother to smash a bottle on his head. "What were you trying to do?" Jaren questioned. Kyle chuckled. "Sir, I am teaching someone a lesson. He is the bastard child from the Jones family, Levi. He had the guts to hit me." As he spoke, he pointed at Levi. Jaren and the rest of Prince Gang took a step forward and knelt in front of Levi. In unison, they called out in unison, "Greetings, Master." Everyone from the Prince Gang, even those unknown, greeted Levi as their master. The situation was alarming. Xenia, Alice, Mia, and Kyle were all confused. What is going on? How did the bastard child from the Jones family end up being the master of the Prince Gang? Are we dreaming? Mia's mouth was wide open as she tried to piece it all together. No wonder Levi dared to challenge the Joneses. It was because he has the ability to do so. Even the Prince Gang calls him master. On the other hand, Kyle refused to buy it. He thought Jaren and the rest were mistaken. "Sir, what is wrong with all of you? He is an illegitimate child from the Jones family. Why are you calling him master? Have you mistaken him for someone else?" Kyle questioned as his eyes widened. Instantly, Jaren shot him a sharp glare. Bang! He sent Kyle flying with a kick. The Protector Chapter 864. Boom! 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 Kyle crashed into several tables before he landed on the ground. Blood filled his mouth, and he felt like dying from Jaren's kick. "I will kill your entire family if you call our master a bastard child," Jaren roared. "Yes. The Prince Gang will hunt down whoever who has anything bad to say about our master." The rest of the members sounded one by one. Boom! The short few remarks took everyone in the restaurant by surprise. They affirmed Levi's identity as Prince Gang's leader. Why? How? Flung onto the ground, Kyle struggled to get up. He was about to go crazy from the knowledge. Truth to be told, he is not only the master of Prince Gang but also the head of the 100 prominent families in Southampton. Jaren's words were as sharp as a knife, and it took everyone by surprise again. Shaking with fear, Kyle's subordinates fell to their knees too. I told him I would beat everyone who calls me a bastard child, and I will do so too. The entire Southampton until no one dares to mention it again, Levi calmly said. Understood. I will do so immediately. I will find all those who dare to speak ill of you, and I will meet them one by one. As for Kyle, your family is finished. Naturally, Jaren called the shots. A few moments later, they threw Kyle and his subordinates out of the restaurant. And it finally quietened down. Don't worry, you guys can continue with your night. Everyone could finally let down their guards after Levi spoke. Xenia and Alice stared at him in wonder. He seems like a gentleman, but is a beast inside. How charming. They secretly asked Mia, is Levi married? Not yet, but he will be soon. Since he is not married, it means that we still stand a chance. That night, Levi rejected both women's invitation to their homes and headed back to the Jones residence with Mia. The Joneses had finished the preparations and were ready for the anniversary meeting to start. Everyone was unhappy to see Levi return. Levi, why did you go out? Aren't you aware that the whole Southampton knows you as the bastard child? My family's reputation is going to be destroyed. Because of you. Tyler growled. By now, everyone in Southampton knew Michael had an illegitimate grandson. The news was spreading like wildfire, and everyone was mocking the Joneses. This was all because of Levi's presence. Therefore, the Joneses were furious with him and wanted him out of sight. They even thought of killing him. Michael commented, since you are part of the Joneses, I will set a rule for you. Levi. I will lock you up in the Jones residence forever. From now on, you can never set foot out of this place. The Protector Chapter 865. He could no longer afford to let Levi roam free because everyone in Southampton knew Levi was a bastard by now. As long as he was free to move around, he would remain a disgrace to the Jones family, which they wanted to avoid. Their only plan was to imprison Levi permanently in the Jones residence and prevent him from ever stepping out. Although people knew he had arrived at the Jones residence, they would forget about his existence as long as he didn't venture out. Therefore, the damage and impact he would cause the Joneses would be greatly reduced. Michael had learned this tactic from someone else. Levi's mother, Emma Jones, was permanently imprisoned and wasn't allowed to leave that place. Until now, they had kept her in captivity for almost 30 years. She was locked up since the day Levi was born. Prior to this, Mia would definitely worry for him. Not anymore. She found out about Levi's identity when the prominent Goel family acknowledged him as their master. She knew the Joneses were powerless against him. If there was any conflict, he would definitely not be at the losing end. In fact, she hoped Levi could teach the Jones family a lesson. Levi laughed. I can move anywhere that the sun shines and river flows. No one can stop me. Furthermore, there's no cage that can stop me. Just wait and see if we manage to keep you locked up. Michael was dismissive of Levi's boas. He wanted to wait till after the anniversary meeting to torture him properly. Michael had another idea. If he failed to imprison Levi, he would get Anson to take the bastard back to the military to be trained. That way, it would be good for the Jones' reputation and also remove Levi the troublemaker. If the 10,000 warriors of the Iron Brigade knew about it, they would laugh until they dropped. To have a deserter bring the god of war back to camp to be trained was going to be a terrible joke. At night, Levi gave Zoe a call. However, she was still angry and hung up on him. Why is Zoe behaving like that? Levi realized the reason very quickly. She must think that I have compromised with the Jones family for the sake of attending the anniversary meeting. Zoe, you are mistaken. I don't need to depend on the Joneses. At my command, the 100 prominent families in Southampton would bow at my feet. Levi smiled wryly. They didn't talk the whole night. The next day, the Jones family anniversary meeting, which was held once every decade, began. Levi and the Joneses arrived early at the Jones family's ancestral home. Family members from all over Arudaya and even those from overseas were present. The anniversary meeting was finally about to begin. The Protector Chapter 866. Later, don't go shooting your mouth off. You better stay in this corner and keep quiet. Michael came over on purpose to remind him. Since he couldn't hide his relationship with Levi, he had no choice but to acknowledge him. That was all Michael could do to prevent him from humiliating other Joneses. The courtyard within their ancestral home was large enough to accommodate 1,000 people. Hence, representatives from Jones families based all over the world were gathered there. There was a chair in the ancestral hall was reserved for the head of the family. On it sat an old man with white hair. He was as thin as a stick and looked as if he could fall any time the wind blew. However, his eyes glistened with energy, and he was in high spirits. He exuded an intimidating aura. He was Joey Jones. At 123 years old, he was the eldest member of the family in Arudaya. He was the most senior member of the Jones diasporic families and had authority over all the individual Jones families. There were 4 other chairs on each side of his seat where Michael, Wesley, and others sat. They were the heads of the 8 most powerful Jones families. They placed the rest of the 1,000 participants according to their seniority. Levi was among them. But no one could see him as he was placed in a secluded corner. Sitting in the chair and holding his staff, Joey exclaimed, what an amazing sight! All our descendants are strong and capable. Within Arudaya, there are few who are stronger than the Jones family itself. Michael and Wesley have done especially well. Within 10 years they have elevated their families from quasi-royal clans to royal families. There are 8 other prominent families who were elevated to quasi-royal clan status. I am impressed. Thank you for your compliments, Father. We wish you a long and prosperous life. Also, we wish the Jones diasporic families everlasting glory. Michael and Wesley both stood up to congratulate everyone. The crowd repeated in unison, we wish you a long and prosperous life. Also, we wish the Jones diasporic families everlasting glory. Joey replied with a smile, next, why don't you tell us one by one what you have achieved in the last 10 years? Michael and Wesley's achievements were a league above everyone else. Joey couldn't stop praising them. However, Wesley explained with resignation, Joey, the Chilshire Jones family has some regrets. We have reached the pinnacle of the business world, but there is no one in our family who has done well in government or the army. My son, Franklin, has not shown he is exceptional as he is just an ordinary government leader. While my grandson Aiden is only a colonel in the army, which is nothing to shout about. As for my brother, Xavier Jones, he is just a second-tier leader in Chilshire but will be promoted to a first-tier leader next year. Hiss! Everyone gasped in awe at how powerful the Jones family of the Chilshire branch was. It was very impressive of them to have influential members in business, government, and the army. Despite his humble tone, Wesley was trying to outdo Michael. He understood that in the south, both his family and Michael's were evenly matched. In terms of the government and army, his family definitely did better than the Jones family of Southampton. The Protector Chapter 867. Impressive. You have lived up to the reputation of being a Jones. Our ancestors are proud of you. Joey clapped with joy. He turned his attention to Michael as it was now the latter's turn to present his family's achievements. Michael glanced at Wesley before presenting. The Southampton Joneses isn't as glorious as Chilshire's. We do not have any exceptional members. The only one worth mentioning is my seventh son, Anson. Wesley interrupted immediately. Oh? I heard Anson is a prodigal son, to the extent you forced him to join the army. So, how is he doing now? Anson behaved badly in the past and was every bit the prodigal son you heard about, but he straightened out after joining the army. Today, he is one of the God of War's close subordinates. As a brigadier general in the Iron Brigade, he is a fearsome warrior and the God of War's right-hand man, Michael explained with aplomb. A brigadier general in the Iron Brigade. Wesley's eyes almost popped out in disbelief. If what Michael said was true, his family's achievements would pale in comparison. Hiss. When the crowd heard what Michael said, all of them caught their breath in awe. That's really impressive. As part of the God of War's personal troops, his status is a lot higher than that of ordinary generals. After all, it's the God of War we are talking about here. Ha ha ha. At that moment, someone burst into sudden laughter. That person was Levi. Anson was a useless bum. Ever since he joined the army, he never saw himself as a soldier. All he did was pass the time eating and drinking. In the end, he deserted the army and was taken prisoner by the enemy. He almost leaked out the army's secrets too. How did this man end up being one of the Iron Brigade's King of War as claimed by Michael? There are no wimps in the Iron Brigade, let alone a deserter like Anson. Even if a member of the Iron Brigade is faced with 10,000 men alone, he would rather charge at the enemy and die in the blaze of glory. As everyone was quiet, Levi's laugh was especially jarring, which caused them to turn their attention to him. Michael was infuriated. Is this he here to cause trouble? Will he not rest until we're all dead? Meanwhile, Wesley was delighted to see Levi. However, he maintained his stern expression. How can one even laugh during such a solemn moment? It's really rude. Do you even respect the rules of the Jones family? Who is it? Come out right now. That's right, who dares to be so rude? Even Joey was outraged. Grandfather, it's Michael's own grandson, Levi Garrison, someone from the crowd replied. The crowd was in an uproar. Michael's eyes were filled with dread. The Protector Chapter 868. Levi Garrison? Come out here. Joey ordered angrily as he slammed his staff on the ground. As the person with the highest authority within the Joneses, he was furious to see such conflict during a solemn event like this. The junior members of the Jones family should always be respectful. At that moment, everyone turned their gaze toward Levi while the members of the Southampton Jones family hung their heads in shame. The time to be humiliated has begun. It's all because of Levi. He is the source of our humiliation. However, Levi didn't move despite being ordered to do so. Joey shifted his sharp gaze to Levi. I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me? Joey's voice deepened. However, Levi ignored him as he never acknowledged that he was related to the Jones family. No matter how much authority Joey had as patriarch of the Jones family, he had no power over Levi. Joey was furious at Levi for ignoring him again. At the same time, Michael and the others were equally infuriated. Levi is like a plague to us and keeps bringing us shame. Joey then turned to Michael. Is this how you teach your grandson? To turn a deaf ear to my command? Is he really deaf? Boom. The Jones family of Southampton were trembling uncontrollably at the patriarch's reprimand. "Levi! Step forward!" Michael yelled at the top of his lungs. Everyone else began yelling, "Levi Garrison, step forward!" However, Levi refused with a smile. "You don't have the authority to order me around." Everyone looked at him in disbelief. Isn't that just ridiculously rude? How could he be so brazen in front of the entire Jones diasporic families? He does not respect anyone at all. "Michael, you really have a wonderful grandson," Joey scolded. Before Michael could explain, Wesley interjected, "Father, based on what I know, this grandson of Michael's was left on the streets since he was young. He grew up in a ghetto and inadvertently picked up many bad habits. He doesn't deserve to have the noble Jones family blood flowing through him." "That's right. Despite having half the noble Jones family blood, he is a despicable person to the core. How can someone like him attend the Jones family's anniversary meeting? How can he even be allowed to stand in the ancestral hall? He is a disgrace to our bloodline," Aiden complained angrily. Levi's expression darkened and retorted, "Noble bloodline? In that case, I want to see how noble is your blood. Let me extract to examine its color." He walked toward Aiden. "Wait! What are you doing?" Everyone was shocked as the scene turned chaotic. When Michael saw that Levi was filled with murderous intent, he resigned himself to despair. The Protector Chapter 869. Although he hadn't known Levi for a long time, he was still aware of how cruel his grandson was. He knew Levi would have no qualms about drawing his knife and extracting blood from Aiden. If Levi and Aiden were drawn into a conflict, the Southampton Jones family would be done for. The shame brought upon the family could never be washed away. "Insolence! What are you trying to do?" Aiden could feel how terrifying Levi was as he instinctively retreated a few steps. The crowd berated Levi one by one, "How dare you cause trouble during such a solemn occasion?" Joey was outraged as he stabbed his staff into the ground loudly. "Why is there such a bastard within the illustrious Jones family?" he lamented as he watched Levi approach Aiden. "What is this ruckus all about?" At that moment, a voice rang out in the courtyard. A man dressed in military fatigues carrying a green backpack entered. "Oh! It's my seventh son. Anson has returned!" Michael yelled in excitement. Wallace, Calvin, and Tyler were all ecstatic to see Anson. "The pride of the Jones family has returned. He is a real king of war. He is also a member of the Iron Brigade under the God of War." Everyone's attention was focused on Anson. "Dad, I'm back!" Anson exclaimed. Michael hugged his son affectionately as he scrutinized him from head to toe. "You picked the right time to be back." "Oh? Son, is there something wrong with your uniform?" Michael asked, puzzled. He noticed there weren't any military signs on Anson's uniform. His armband and the shoulder ranks were gone. Even his serial number and all other insignias were left empty. Being a deserter who almost leaked army secrets to the enemy, he was stripped of everything, leaving nothing on his uniform. Staring at his empty uniform, Michael and everyone else were surprised. In their minds, Anson was supposed to be wearing the uniform of a brigadier general with a single star on his shoulder. However, not seeing anything there disappointed them. They started to doubt Anson's identity. "Anson, where's your uniform? Aren't you a brigadier general?" Michael asked. "About that, the Iron Brigade has very strict disciplinary rules. On such an occasion, we are not allowed to deck out our uniforms in full colors. All ranks and insignias have to be removed to keep a low profile," Anson explained without batting an eyelid. He didn't dare to tell his father the truth for fear of being beaten to death. "Oh. So that's it. Just as I've said." Michael smiled in relief. Bullshit, who came up with that rule? Why didn't I know about it? Levi interjected suddenly. The Protector Chapter 870. Levi had never set such a rule in the Iron Brigade. In fact, he would encourage his men to put on their Iron Brigade armbands when they returned home because it was a prestigious symbol. Any family who had a son serving in the Iron Brigade would feel extremely honored. Levi's words brought everyone's attention back to him, including Anson's. He sneered at Levi. Who are you? Do I know you? Are you a member of the Iron Brigade? Levi asked. That's right. Brigadier General Anson Jones of the Iron Brigade at your service. Anson replied. Levi was amused. You're in the Iron Brigade and yet you don't know who I am. Soldiers from other divisions may not know him, but the Iron Brigade was under his personal command. Every member knew him by the face. It was impossible for his subordinate not to recognize him. It only means you are not from the Iron Brigade. I don't know you. Are you also in the Iron Brigade? Anson panicked. If his lie were exposed, Michael would definitely punish him severely. Don't listen to his nonsense. He is Emma's son, Levi Garrison, Michael reminded. Upon hearing that, Anson heaved a sigh of relief. He glared at Levi and bellowed, Are you even from the Iron Brigade? Why do I need to know you? Who do you think you are? Levi replied with a knowing smile, If you are really from the Iron Brigade, you will definitely know who I am. Dad, is this guy being rude and disrespecting all the elders here? Anson stared daggers at Levi. Just ignore him. Come over here to greet the patriarch. Anson followed his father and approached Joey. Grandfather, it's my honor to meet you. Joey stood up and looked at Anson emotionally. The Jones diasporic families finally have a member who brings the greatest honor to the family. So what if one is extremely wealthy or if one's wealth rival that of nations? It pales in comparison with what you have achieved. You are the right-hand man of the god of war and a famous general of the Iron Brigade. I am extremely proud of you. The Southampton Jones family was ecstatic to hear that. To be acknowledged by the Grand Master in front of the Jones diasporic families was considered the highest honor and the envy of the other families. As a result, Wesley's face darkened. Come, give Anson a seat, Joey ordered. Other than the head of prominent Jones families, no one else was allowed to sit in front. By inviting Anson to have a seat, Joey was demonstrating how much he valued Anson's achievement. Michael arranged for 2 chairs to be brought in. One for Anson while the other for a guest of the highest honor, the god of war himself. When Levi saw the empty chair, he commented with a smile, It appears the Jones family knows what's good for them by reserving a seat for me. Just as he spoke, he proceeded to take his seat. The Protector Chapter 871. Levi, what are you doing? Anson stopped him when he saw Levi sitting down. I'm taking the place they have reserved for me, Levi casually replied. Are you out of your mind? Look at how many elders are standing, so what gives you the right to sit? Anson scolded. Is Michael's grandson sick in the head? Or is he just arrogant? Since when is he qualified to sit there? That's right. He keeps behaving rudely in front of the patriarch. Michael, what's the meaning of this? Are you doing it on purpose? After berating Levi, the crowd turned their attention toward Michael. He was close to bursting a vessel. To him, Levi was an idiot who insisted on creating unnecessary drama. Meanwhile, the Southampton Jones family stared at Levi as if he was their mortal enemy. If not for his presence, they would have outshone everyone else during the anniversary meeting. Amongst the crowd, Calvin pulled Mia over and warned her, Mia, you should not have anything to do with Levi from now on. Or else, he will be the death of you. Why? He has always treated me well. Don't worry, he won't harm me, Mia replied with a smile. You're still young, so what do you know? I know a scum when I see one. Calvin hated Levi's guts now. Mia retorted, Dad, you're the one that's ignorant. If Levi's true identity is revealed, he would outshine everyone here. No one can compare to him. Calvin gave her an exasperated look. Did Levi poison your head? Mia replied in glee, Dad, you will know soon enough. Meanwhile, Wesley suddenly remarked, Michael, what's the meaning of this extra chair? Did you prepare it for your grandson? Ha 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 ha. The crowd burst into laughter, causing Michael to feel humiliated. Michael, tell me. Who is that seat for? Even Joey was concerned. At that moment, Michael knew he couldn't maintain his secret any longer. Joey, I wanted to give you a surprise at the end. Given the current circumstances, I have no choice but to tell you now. Wesley's heart sank when he realized Michael must have invited someone extremely important to the meeting. He knew Michael planned to solidify the Southampton Jones family's position. In one move, Wesley began to panic as he did not make any other preparations. When he turned to look at the Southampton Jones family, all of them looked extremely confident. It was obviously someone very important who would help them reinforce their position. In his curiosity, Joey couldn't help but ask, I am very interested to know who this person is. Michael replied with a smile, I'll not hide it from you any longer. The seat is prepared for the God of War. The Protector Chapter 872. It was a shocking revelation to them. Just as Michael spoke, everyone gasped as if they had been struck by lightning. Other than the Southampton Jones family, everyone else was stupefied. Although Wesley guessed it was someone important, this was still beyond what he had imagined. It is the God of War himself. Joey was so emotional that he teared and even dropped his staff. Is it true? Is the Honorable God of War coming to attend our anniversary meeting? His body was visibly trembling. Father, it's true. To be honest, the God of War has been a supporter of the Southampton Jones family for a long time. Do you remember when we were attacked by Elijah? It was the God of War who saved us. After receiving an affirmative answer, Joey shouted in elation, the status of the Jones is going to be further elevated. Going forward, the entire Jones diasporic families in Arudaya will be placed under your authority. Pfft. The declaration dealt a crushing blow to Wesley, but it was the best news the Southampton Jones family could hope for. Although Levi's appearance had humiliated them and angered the patriarch, the Southampton Jones family still had one more trump card: the God of War. Michael almost jumped in joy when he realized all the Jones families in Arudaya would have to take orders from him. In his mind, a blueprint took shape. He planned to leverage on the strength of the Jones families in Arudaya to create a royal family. Not only was he going to rule Southampton, but also the whole of Arudaya in the end. When is the God of War arriving? Joey asked in anticipation. Ordinary people like us are not privy to his itinerary. However, he has promised us that he would be here, Michael answered confidently. At that moment, no one noticed Anson was trembling in a corner as he didn't expect the God of War to come in person. When he arrives, wouldn't I be exposed? It would be impossible for the God of War not to recognize him, given that he claimed to be a king of war, the God of War's right-hand man. When that happens, where am I going to hide? The more he thought about it, the more fearful he became. He was shivering incessantly. In fact, he was so frightened that he could wet his pants anytime. "Anson, why are you shaking? What are you afraid of?" Michael asked in surprise. Curiosity flashed in his eyes. "Why is he so frightened when I mentioned the god of war? What's going on with him?" Joey came to Anson's defense. "Michael, don't you know? As the god of war's right-hand man, Anson must be excited to see him." It suddenly made sense to Michael. "Oh, right. That's true." A voice rang out. "No. He is afraid that once the god of war arrives and doesn't recognize him, his lie will be exposed." The Protector Chapter 873. It was Levi. "Damn it, it's Levi again." Michael couldn't be any more outraged. While Anson was trembling, he didn't expect Levi to bring up the topic again. He looked at Levi in horror and wondered if the latter really knew something. He didn't dare rebut as he was overwhelmed by fear. "Levi, what are you babbling about? Anson really is a king of war in the Iron Brigade. You're accusing him of being a fraud. Are you for real?" "That's right. Are you causing trouble on purpose?" The whole Southampton Jones family was up in arms at Levi's attitude. If the other families weren't watching, they would have definitely killed Levi. Meanwhile, Wesley was happily watching the unexpected turn of events. So what if the Southampton Jones family has many achievements? Having a king of war no longer matters when they have a crazy person like Levi running loose. His actions alone negate all their accomplishments. He is a disgrace to the Southampton Jones family and deserves to be nailed to the pillar of shame. Going with the flow, Wesley inquired, "Levi, how do you know he is a fraud? Do you know something we don't?" Anson's face turned pale while cold sweat broke out on his forehead. "Because I know every single person in the Iron Brigade and he is not one of them," Levi replied in amusement. Michael retorted, "What do you know? Do you think you're one of the Iron Brigade?" Before Levi could reply, Michael interrupted him further, "I've investigated everything about you. Other than being imprisoned for 6 years, you were at Northampton. What connection do you have with the Iron Brigade?" The gloves were off for Michael. Not afraid of being laughed at, Michael revealed the fact that Levi went to prison on impulse. Everyone was shocked by the revelation. Michael then explained to Joey, "I know this is embarrassing, but I'm sure you're aware of the shame my daughter, Emma, experienced. However, her son is even more of a disgrace. If Wesley hadn't declared our relationship to the world, I would never have acknowledged him. Today, in front of you, I declare he is not fit to be my grandson. I will never acknowledge him as my family." Joey and Wesley were shocked at how harsh Michael was. "Do you want me to acknowledge you? I can. Just show me your achievements. If you can be a colonel in the army, a government leader, or even own $1 billion in assets, I will acknowledge you once you accomplish any of those. Do you even have any? You're nothing but an absolute loser and an ex-convict. Do you deserve to be part of the Jones family?" Michael was ballistic as he bombarded Levi with questions. At that moment, someone ran into the courtyard. "Tyler, Wales, the Prince Gang is here." The Protector Chapter 874. 18/06/2021 by Chapter Novel. The Prince Gang is here. Both Tyler and Wales were stunned for a moment. Although they had greeted the Prince Gang before, they were ignored by Jaren and his companions then. Why are they here? Join Telegram group for fast update and novel query. Regardless of the reason, it's a positive development. At least they will provide us with a show of strength. After all, the Prince Gang was considered a prestigious organization. Every one of its members represented Southampton's most prominent families. Holding that thought, both men were ecstatic as they went out to receive them. "Father, they are part of Tyler's network. They're an organization of youths called the Prince Gang, and are made up of all the heirs of Southampton's prominent families." Michael grinned. "Join Telegram group for fast update and novel query." "That's very good. I have heard about the Prince Gang before, as they are famous. These young men have a promising future, which is impressive." Joey continued his praise. Amidst the crowd, Mia's eyes were sparkling with excitement while her lips widened into a smug smile. She mumbled to herself, "It appears Levi is going to make his move soon." She was looking forward to seeing Levi revealing his identity and shocking everyone present. "I wonder how the Jones family will react later. I really can't wait." Calvin asked out of curiosity, "Mia, what are you babbling about? What has this got to do with Levi?" "Dad, just keep watching," Mia replied with a smile. Calvin was none the wiser but continued to watch the situation unfold. In a brief moment, Tyler and his brother led the members of the Prince Gang in. Leading the group was Jaren and Jackson. "Father, this Jaren Goel, leader of the Prince Gang and heir to Southampton's most prominent family, the Goel family. Beside him is Jackson Hunt, heir to Southampton's second most prominent family, the Hunt family." Michael started to introduce the members of the Prince Gang. "Very good. With such powerful friends, the Jones family will definitely be further elevated. Michael, not only do you make me proud, but the younger members of the family also never cease to amaze me. It seems the future of the Jones diasporic families lies in your hands," Joey remarked emotionally. The other Jones families looked on in admiration and envy. "Jaren, Jackson, let me introduce you. This is..." Before Tyler could introduce them to Joey, Jaren led the Prince Gang members away and headed in a different direction. "Oh? What's going on?" Everyone was caught by surprise while Tyler and Wales were stunned. "Hey? Aren't they here to support us? Why have they left? Do they have a different reason for coming?" When he saw the direction Jaren was heading, Calvin's heart began to race in suspense. Is what Mia said coming true? He gave her a thoughtful look. Mia's eyes were glistening with pride. The 1,000-odd attendees were staring in the direction Jaren was heading. When the group arrived in front of Levi, they dropped to their knees with a thump. The Protector Chapter 875. All the members of the Prince Gang were kneeling in front of Levi. They shouted in unison, "The Southampton Prince Gang is honored to see you, Master." Their spirited greeting echoed reverberated like rumbling thunder. There was total silence, as if time had stopped and space had frozen. Everything was suspended at that very moment. Tyler was stupefied, and so was Michael and Joey. The 1,000-odd members of the Jones family were all astounded. Everyone felt as if they had been struck by lightning and burnt to a crisp. As Calvin and Mia were standing close by, he saw everything unfold right before him. Unable to fully process what was going on, he felt as if he was going to faint any time. Luckily, Mia was there to support him. Bam! Someone couldn't accept what was going on and fainted on the ground, causing a loud thump. The sound brought everyone's senses back. They were all gasping for air. It is unbelievable. It must be the end of the world. No matter what, they could not accept what had just unfolded in front of them. The Southampton Prince Gang is actually kneeling in front of Levi? What's going on? Isn't he a bastard? I thought he was just rabble. Did he really spend 6 years in prison? Who is he for the Prince Gang to kneel before him? A barrage of questions bombarded everyone's mind. They were filled with doubts and didn't know where the disconnect was. Among the 1,000 men present, all that could be heard was the sound of heavy breathing. It was obvious no one could fathom what was going on. Tyler and Wales couldn't help but ask, "Jaren, Jackson, are you paying your respects to the Wrong person? The one who is the most senior among us is Joey, the patriarch. And he's right. Over here. Hearing that, Jaren looked at Tyler and his brother. If you are still a member of the Prince gang, come over here and kneel. Hey? Kneel? To him? Never. I can kneel to anyone but him. That's right. What are you talking about? We will never kneel to a bastard. Tyler and his brother made their stand. Jaren suddenly stood up and stormed toward both of them. Slap. Slap. He gave each of them a forceful slap. I will personally kill whoever dare calls our master a bastard, Jaren bellowed. From now on, you are both banished from the Southampton Prince gang. Jaren made a decisive decision. Everyone was shocked that Tyler and Wales were kicked out. The next time you utter the word bastard against our master again, I'll kill both of you. The Protector Chapter 876. None of the Joneses understood Jaren's threat. What's going on? Who exactly is Levi? This is such a surprise. The Prince gang not only called him master but also defended him. Why is that? After teaching Tyler and Wales a lesson, Jaren returned to kneel in front of Levi. Enough, get up, Levi casually said. Upon his orders, all the members of the Prince gang stood up. At that moment, Michael's mind went blank. He and the other Joneses could not comprehend how Levi could become the master of the Southampton's Prince gang. Puzzled, Michael and Tyler exchanged glances and recalled that Lucas went to South City a few days ago. Was Lucas crippled by Levi? And yet, that was only the beginning. Sir. Sir. For some reason, a lot of luxury cars are arriving outside. From the looks of it, there are almost 100 of them. The butler rushed in suddenly to report what was going on outside. Oh? Do we still have guests? Michael was surprised as he was no longer expecting anyone. Could it be the god of war? But the god of war wouldn't come in a 100-car convoy. So, who else could it be? Thud. 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 The next moment, they could hear a flurry of footsteps. It sounded as if there were many people. Quick, look who's here. Everyone looked out in anticipation. 100-odd men arrived in front of the ancestral hall. Luckily, the courtyard was big enough to contain all of them. When he saw who was heading the group, Michael was astonished beyond belief. It was Zabian Goel and the other 9 heads of Southampton's royal families. Behind them, there was still a large entourage. Zabian, didn't you say that you could not attend our anniversary meeting? Why? Have you suddenly come? Michael approached and asked curiously. He had earlier invited them because they were part of his local network in South Hampton. However, all of them rejected his invitation as they felt it inappropriate for outsiders to attend a Jones family anniversary meeting. And yet, here they were, which confused Michael. Humph! Why should we attend your family's anniversary meeting? Zabian snorted. That's right, what has your family event got to do with us? Mario of the Hunt family retorted. Hayden of the Quinn family also sneered. Michael, do you think we are idiots? The Goel, Hunt, and Quinn families were the top 3 of Southampton's 10 royal families. Therefore, Michael didn't dare offend them. He carefully pried, in that case, are you here for someone else? Of course. Zabian and the others walked toward Levi. Hiss. The courtyard fell into complete silence again. The Protector Chapter 877. When Zabian and the others arrived in front of Levi, they too dropped to their knees. The Joneses felt as if their hearts were going to burst. Those are Southampton's finest. That is the head of the Goel family, Zabian. It was such a magnificent sight that everyone was enthralled. Zabian greeted, the Southampton's Goel family is honored to see you, Master. Next, Mario greeted, the Southampton's Hunt family is honored to see you, Master. Then, it was Hayden who greeted, the Southampton's Quinn family is honored to see you, Master. However, that was just the beginning. One by one, the head of the other families paid their respects to Levi. Finally, a total of 99 prominent families knelt in front of Levi and greeted him as their Master. Of the 100 prominent families of Southampton, 99 of them had gathered in front of Levi. Only the solitary Jones family was left out. In other words, only the Jones family had not greeted Levi as their master. What's going on? It's unbelievable. It's just unimaginable. At that instant, everything Michael believed in was in tatters. Pfft! His heart sank as he felt a choking sensation in his throat. If not for him forcibly suppressing it, he would throw up any time. Meanwhile, the entire courtyard was silent, even the sound of breathing was non-existent this time. Drib! 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 The only sound that could be heard was cold sweat dripping onto the floor as every single member of the Jones family was sweating profusely. They were so nervous that they were already drenched in sweat. Even Mia, who knew Levi's identity, was breathing rapidly and had broken into a cold sweat. She had thought that him being the master of the Prince gang was impressive enough. Little did she expect that was just the beginning. Except for the Jones family, every other prominent family in Southampton had recognized him as their master. It was unbelievably shocking. The Jones family couldn't believe what they just saw as their hearts beat so furiously that they could explode anytime. As their breathing increased in pace, their breathlessness made them feel as if they were being suffocated by a rope. Is that all? No. Not yet. Mr. Grover Cook of the Southern Union and his 4 kings are here. A shout was heard from outside. The Protector Chapter 878. Boom! Michael and the other Joneses were so shocked that they felt as if they had been struck by lightning again. This time, the Joneses knew that Grover and the 4 kings were here to see Levi too. The next moment, Grover led the 4 kings inside, followed by the 6 slaves. The 11 of them walked toward Levi and dropped to their knees in a thud. As all of them knelt in front of Levi, they greeted in unison, Mr. Garrison. Everyone was stupefied. Grover is just as famous as Elder Goel. Even the 4 kings who arrived with him are heroes in their own right. And yet, they are all kneeling in front of that brat? This is simply inconceivable. What is Levi's true identity? Isn't he a bastard as what the Jones family claims? It's impossible for a hooligan to be accorded with so much respect. Meanwhile, Joey, Wesley, and all the other Joneses turned to look at Michael. It was obvious from their gaze that they were asking the same question. Is he really the hooligan that you claim he is? His status now is already higher than all the Joneses combined. Despite such influence, Michael had the gall to say that Levi didn't deserve to be part of the Jones family, and that he will never acknowledge Levi. He even set 3 conditions for Levi. Levi's current position is so high that even the Jones family can only aspire to achieve it. Does he even need the 3 conditions? The Southampton Jones family are a bunch of fools and Michael is the biggest fool of them all. Joey glared angrily at Michael till his face was red. All you needed to do was treating him better and he would become one of us. With his capabilities and network, Levi could lead the Jones family to greater heights. However, you made a mess of your relationship with him. If Joey knew the Jones family had tried to assassinate Levi a few times, he would likely have beaten Michael to death with his staff. As the atmosphere eased, everyone's heavy breathing could be heard. It was a terrifying experience. Everything they experienced today would never be forgotten for the rest of their lives. Why you? Michael stared at Levi for a long while but couldn't even spit out a single word. It shocked every single one of the Jones family when they realized many of the previous misunderstandings could now be resolved. Why Daniel was beaten to a pulp, why Lucas ended up a eunuch, why the Prince gang was destroyed, up to the fact that the local tyrant Oliver was overthrown, and why the king of assassins had suddenly disappeared. All these events were linked to Levi. They had previously thought it was just a coincidence that all the above parties bumped into the god of war. But now, they knew it was all because of Levi. He alone was strong enough. What do you want to ask me? Levi smiled. I told you long ago that I don't care about the Jones family at all, let alone if you acknowledge me. I'm stronger than all of you. Can't you see that? The Protector Chapter 879. Tyler was the smartest in the Jones family, and he laughed before saying, I'll admit that you are powerful, even though I don't know why or where you've gotten your power from. The important bit, however, is that the Joneses truly are not a match against you. Unfortunately for you, my family has something up our sleeves. We are supported by someone who is powerful, and everything that you have will be nothing but illusions once he shows up. His words made everyone gasp, and they soon regained their composure. Levi's network and connection had frightened them so much that they had actually forgotten about the guy having their backs. The Joneses had an extremely powerful ally. Tyler's words served as a reminder to everyone that the Joneses still had the god of war on their side. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when such a thought came to mind, as the color gradually returned to their cheeks. They hadn't lost. Or rather, the Joneses of Southampton were just beginning. That's right. We have the god of war on our side, so don't you gloat, Levi Garrison. Wisdom comes with age, and you are simply too young to fight us, proclaimed Michael, who smiled arrogantly once more. Joey forgave Michael for the time being. Everything can be settled, with the god of war on our side. Is the god of war here yet? We're merely minutes away from the opening ceremony, asked Joey impatiently. Wesley murmured suspiciously, will the god of war really show up? Of course. He is the god of war, so he will definitely keep to his word, defended Michael. Immediately. Then why isn't he here yet? It's true that he is tied to his words, but the Joneses truly are too weak to get his attention. He doesn't need to come if he doesn't want to. It's not like you can do anything about it. Anyway, reminded Wesley, whose words had caused Michael to shiver a little. He's right. Regardless of what the god of war has said, the Joneses are still rather weak, when compared to him. He doesn't need to show up if he doesn't want to, and there is nothing that we can do about it. Michael turned to his son at that crucial moment and barked, Anson, can you get in touch with the god of war? Hurry and ask him where he is right now. Hey? Fumbled Anson awkwardly. He had been lying the entire time, and he didn't know the god of war at all. How was he supposed to get in touch with the guy? Anson cleared his throat and announced awkwardly, Dad, you might not be aware of this, but the god of war's daily routines are all top secret. The password to get in touch with him changes every day. Michael immediately ordered, Tyler, call the commander-in-chief right away and ask him why the god of war hasn't shown up yet. The Joneses were all nervous then, and they had begun to sweat, once more. The Joneses were done for if the god of war wasn't going to show up. Joey instructed, put it on speakerphone. Hello Commander-in-Chief, I am Tyler Jones of the Jones family. I'd like to ask if the god of war has left yet? We don't see him around. The voice rang up, from the other end of the line, the god of war has already arrived. Didn't you see him there? The Protector Chapter 880. Tyler was so surprised that his hand had slipped, and his phone had fallen onto the ground. The god of war is here? Why haven't we heard anything about it? I don't see the god of war anywhere. In fact, the only people here are Levi Garrison, the business tycoons of South Hampton, and the members of the Southern Union. Commander-in-Chief, the god of war is nowhere to be seen. Maybe you made a mistake? Asked Tyler, who couldn't help himself. Maybe he's on his way. Let me check. Michael appeared calmer and insisted, the god of war is probably already on his way over. Joey. Yes, that has to be it. I'll have my people head over to welcome him, added Tyler. No, you will all go in person to show him how much we respect him, instructed Michael. Wallace, Tyler, and the others all went out of the house to welcome the god of war. I don't care how powerful you are, Levi Garrison. You are nothing compared to Anson. He is the King of War Iron Brigade, and he has the god of war watching his back. Your power doesn't matter under such circumstances, growled Michael. Joey glared evilly at Michael upon hearing his words. You. Why must you speak in such a manner? Must you make an enemy out of him? He is your grandson, your biological grandson. And our blood runs in his very veins. He is also a member of our family, so why are you being so mean? Scolded Joey, before he turned to Levi and added, Kid, the previous incident is merely a misunderstanding. They had only acted that way because they weren't aware of who you were. If they had known your true identity, they would have treated you differently and they might have even trained you to become the next head of the family. You silly kid, why did you keep your identity a secret? You could have told us the truth from the beginning. Joey's intentions were simple. He had wanted to appease Levi, clear all rifts, and convince him to join the Jones family. He got the business tycoons in Southampton to see him as their leader, and if the family could merge with a power like that, it would definitely benefit both sides greatly. The Jones family would definitely rise to become one of the top families of the country. Naturally, Joey didn't want to let go of an opportunity like that. He's right. I was wrong earlier and I didn't see how talented you were. Why didn't you inform me of your true identity earlier? I would have gone to welcome you in person, announced Michael. Immediately. He caught what Joey was thinking and planning. Levi chuckled. And what if I were not as powerful as I am now? Would you still take me in as a member of your family? Would you still welcome me with open arms, Michael? Fumbled Michael, who didn't quite know what to say. Joey was stumped as well. If Levi weren't as powerful as he was, everyone would continue treating him like a bastard. Humph, let me share something with you. The Jones family means nothing to me. Tyler, Wales, and the others returned at that moment. Hey? Is the god of war already here? The Protector Chapter 881. Michael immediately looked ahead, with hope burning in his eyes, but he was soon disappointed. The god of war wasn't there, and Tyler and the others were the ones who had arrived, along with a servant. The servant had a gift box with him. The Joneses thought that the box looked quite familiar, but they couldn't quite remember where they had seen it before. What's going on, Tyler? Didn't I ask you guys to go and welcome the god of war? Why did you return with this? Asked Michael. Calm down, Grandpa. This guy is not an ordinary guy. He is the god of war's messenger and he is here with the god of war's gift to us. Tyler's words got Michael excited. He quickly rushed over to check it out. Anything related to the god of war, even a stinky dog, would be viewed as a luxury, in his eyes. Michael would have gone on his knees to accept the gift if he had needed to. Sir, what did the god of war have you deliver over? Asked Michael. An ancient relic. A bronze sword, replied the man calmly. Hey? A bronze sword. The Joneses took a closer look and realized that it was the same sword that the Jones family had gifted the god of war, back some time ago. That was good news, because if the sword was there, then the god of war had to be close by as well. Levi Garrison would mean nothing, when the god of war were to arrive. He can either join the family and contribute accordingly, or he can rot in hell. The Joneses were all ecstatic to see that. "Sir, may I know why the god of war had you deliver the bronze sword over in advance?" The Joneses guessed that the sword was meant to signal the arrival of the god of war before the real deal had shown up. The man holding the box ignored them. He looked around and scanned the surroundings before he suddenly walked over to Levi. Boom! That gesture sent a dangerous message that had almost frightened Michael and Joey so much that they had fallen onto their knees. Is the bronze sword a gift to Levi? How does he know the god of war? As they pondered on this thought, the delivery man approached Levi and presented the box politely. Levi opened the box and took the bronze sword out to swing it around a little. The somewhat rusty artifact suddenly turned strangely bright, as it soon appeared powerful. That gift is for Levi? How does he know the god of war? Or does it mean that the god of war is here? They thought about how Levi had seemed to know everything about Anson and the Iron Brigade. Is Levi a member of the Iron Brigade? Wales couldn't help but scold Levi when the former saw the latter play with the sword. "Oi, what are you doing, Levi Garrison? That bronze sword is a gift from the Jones family to the god of war, and you have no right to play with it like that." "He's right. Put it down." "You have no right to do that," chimed in the other Joneses. Levi kept playing with the sword. He chuckled and asked, "There's a question that you guys should really think about." "And what is that?" "Could it be that I am the god of war?" The Protector Chapter 882. Levi's words rained heavily on the Joneses' parade, and it was as though he was trying to administer the Joneses a heart attack. The Joneses turned quiet instantly. Their expression froze, their minds went blank, and their irises constricted. It was almost as if their souls had suddenly left their bodies. Levi's question was simply too overwhelming. The Joneses couldn't even imagine the dire consequences they would face if what Levi had claimed was true. It would be total annihilation, and they didn't want to think about it. They didn't dare to either. "You? The god of war? Please. Aren't you afraid of offending the real deal?" mocked Wales, who immediately voiced out his suspicion. Tyler laughed and shared his analysis as well. "Levi Garrison, you are powerful. In fact, you are so good that you have even crushed the Goel family. However, you being the god of war? That is simply impossible. You were imprisoned for 6 years, and that took you out of the equation, because the god of war rose to power while you were still in prison. I'm guessing that you had met some powerful gangster when you were in prison. That is why you are as powerful as you are now. The business tycoons only follow your tunes because they are afraid of the gangster that you had met in prison. Am I right?" Levi's power was something that Tyler couldn't make sense of, nor understand. The only rational explanation that he could come up with was that Levi had met someone powerful while in prison. The other members of the Jones family accepted that analysis as well. After all, they didn't want, or dare to accept any other alternative. This was seemingly apparent, as they didn't want to accept the bit where Levi might have been the god of war. Levi laughed aloud and exclaimed, "You're smarter than you appear. You're right. I was given an opportunity while I was imprisoned. A secret government department chose Levi and took him away while he was in prison. In a way, he met someone powerful in prison, someone who had raised him to the top. You're pretty good. you've managed to get in touch with the god of war even though you've possessed a criminal record, pronounced Tyler as he grinned. However, the Jones family is still slightly more powerful than you are. Even if we ignore the god of war's close relationship with our family, my uncle, Anson, is still a subordinate who works directly beneath the god of war. That alone trumps any connection that you might have formed with the god of war. Levi grinned, as he shifted his gaze towards Anson, who was trembling at that very moment. All right then, I'll wait and see how terribly I will end, mocked Levi, before he continued playing with the sword. The Jones family, on the other hand, continued waiting nervously for the god of war to show up. They were drowning in anxiety, when they finally heard footsteps coming. Wallace stood at the front and had his head down, as he welcomed the few men standing behind him. The Joneses instantly recognized one of the men. It was the commander-in-chief of the Southampton war zone, Clark Pond. If that guy is there, then the god of war has to be in close proximity as well. About 5 other men were standing beside Clark, and they were the 5 Great War's Regiment, serving under the god of war. However, the Joneses didn't know any of them and assumed that one of them was the god of war. The god of war is finally here, announced Michael happily. Joey and the other superiors of the Jones family walked up to welcome everyone, but were unfortunately ignored by Clark and the rest, who walked towards another man instead. That man was Levi the Protector. Chapter 883. No way. Could it be? A bad feeling crept up upon Michael and the others. They thought that one of the 6 men was the god of war, but that had turned out to be untrue. The insignia on their shoulders suggested that they were 5 kings of war. Instead, 5 kings of war. Everyone quickly thought about the 5 Great Wars regiment who had served directly under the god of war. All the Joneses had their eyes on Clark and the others, as they strode towards Levi. As suspected, the men stopped in front of Levi and greeted simultaneously. Greetings, god of war. Boom. It felt as though lightning had filled the sky and tore everything apart. Tyler was flabbergasted. Wallace was left in shock. Joey was stunned. Michael was lost. Over 1,000 members of the Jones family had acted as though they had been struck by lightning. They stood there, petrified, like they had been turned into stones. The light in their eyes had diminished, as their minds had gone blank. They were practically mindless zombies at that moment. 6 kings of war, with 5 of them being the 5 Great Wars Regiment. No one could get them to greet him like that. No one, except the god of war. Levi Garrison was the god of war. That was the truth, and it could not change, no matter how much they had wished it could. Levi grinned and ordered, "Go and get a chair for me. I'm tired." Levi's words got everyone to turn their gazes to the chair, placed in front of the ancestral shrine. They still remembered how Levi had requested for that seat, when Michael was arranging the chairs. Back then, the Joneses had stopped Levi from sitting on that chair and had even mocked him endlessly. At that moment, it looked like no one else would dare to take that seat, all except for Levi. After all, it was prepared solely for him. Azure Dragon quickly grabbed the chair and placed it by Levi's side. Levi sat down and chuckled, "I told you that this seat was reserved for me, but you lot had refused to believe it." Ugh! A sweetness spread across Michael's mouth, and he couldn't hold it in any more. He literally spat out blood. Thump! Wallace, on the other hand, had fallen onto the floor, after his feet had softened, giving way to the ground. Tyler knelt down as well, and so did Wales. Their scalps felt tingly, as though their brains were about to explode. Levi Garrison is the god of war. Their worst nightmare had come true, and they couldn't believe that it actually was real. Recalling the past incidents, they realized that they were wrong, even from the very beginning. A guy who could control the business tycoons of Southampton and the Southern Union couldn't be an ordinary guy, and a gangster couldn't pull something that crazy off. Moreover, if a gangster were capable of all of that, he would have been too powerful to have been thrown in prison, in the first place. Tyler felt his scalp going numb when he suddenly made that connection. Ugh, and Levi's 6 years in jail, that is, his 6 years of being out of the public's eyes, coincided with the god of war's rise to power. The timeline had matched perfectly. Why didn't I think of that sooner? Tyler smacked his own head. Ugh. Tyler spat blood as well. The Protector Chapter 884. It was simply too scary, and that prompted them to turn a blind eye to all the signs. Why did the king of assassins go missing all of a sudden? An ordinary man could not have destroyed a man like that. Lucas was destroyed, the Prince gang was crushed, and even the head of the Goel family, who had remained powerful in Southampton for over 50 years, was defeated in South City. Every single one of those incidents suggested that Levi was the god of war. Michael stared at Levi in disbelief. The former then asked, "Be back then, the warlord, Elijah, shouldn't he have captured you?" Ha 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 ha. The other Joneses laughed aloud, and so did Elijah, the warlord. They laughed at Michael's misfortune because he couldn't have guessed that the guy he had chosen to take the fall was none other than the god of war himself. No wonder you've never accepted any invitation from the Jones family. It's because they're not worthy of your attention. You weren't being proud. We were merely too weak to make it to your radar. Michael laughed pitifully. He had already turned pale by then. Every question that the Joneses had, like why the bronze sword they gifted the god of war suddenly showed up with Levi, was already answered. It turned out that the god of war was never on their side. They were merely helped, because Levi was one of their blood-related relatives. The others who had been nice to the Joneses got them to assume that the god of war was on their side. The help that they had received, plus the fact that Anson was the Iron Brigade, had pushed them into thinking that they were in alliance with the god of war. Wait, something isn't right. Didn't Anson say that he was the god of war's right-hand man? Over 1,000 pairs of eyes shifted to Anson. Anson was trembling at that moment, and he had his head so low that it looked like he was hiding his tears. He knew that his lies would be exposed, as soon as the god of war had arrived. He was never a king of war. In fact, he wasn't even a foot soldier. He was a deserter and a captive. What the hell is wrong with you, Anson? Why aren't you coming over to greet the god of war? Scolded Joey. Anson was curled up, currently trembling at the side. He didn't dare to even take a step forward. What is wrong with you? Aren't you the king of war, also known as the Iron Brigade? Asked Joey and the others. Everyone was nervously waiting. Let me tell you guys the truth. Anson is a military deserter who was captured by the enemy. The real Iron Brigade had rescued him, before locking him up. Because he had almost spilled military secrets, shared Levi with a smile. Hey? You're a deserter? No wonder your uniform doesn't have any insignias. You're a military deserter? How did our family produce a shameless idiot like you? Roared Michael, before he strode forward with his walking cane and beat Anson up. Anson was their last hope of getting out of their troubles in one piece, but that hope was never there. Stop hitting him already. The other members of the Jones family aren't that honorable either. Now, what do we do about you trying to assassinate me? Asked Levi suddenly. The Protector Chapter 885. Boom. Hearing that question at that moment got Michael's vision to turn dark, and he had almost passed out. The god of war is making us answer for our crimes. Thump. Michael got on his knees, and the other members of the Southampton Jones family soon followed suit. They fell to their knees, one after the other. Calvin and Mia were on their knees as well. Unlike the other members of the Jones family, Calvin was actually a little excited. His daughter had always trusted Levi, and she was the only one who Levi had seen to be family. Does that mean that my future will be bright? At the very least, they would have to promote me within the family and no one would dare to offend me. After all, my daughter is the god of war's family member. My sweet Mia, I will never learn to be as good as you in judging others, praised Calvin. No, Dad, I am good at judging others. You guys are simply too narrow-minded. You only have your eyes on profits. Levi is related to us, after all, and he should be treated as a part of the family. I didn't know who he was earlier either, replied Mia. That was when Calvin learned a very important lesson. The kind ones will always be protected in this world. Assassinate. Joey's eyes bulged so much that they had almost flown out of his sockets. That Michael is too crazy. He had actually tried to kill the god of war? That's right. There were 2 attempts. He hired the king of assassins from overseas to carry the mission out. He also came after my wife twice. Levi threw forth, calmly. Joey fumed and rushed to Michael upon hearing that. Bang! 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 Joey's cane landed mercilessly on Michael's head, and the dragon-shaped handle of the cane made Michael begin to bleed. Joey didn't stop, even after all of that. I also heard that you've searched for your grandson just to send him off to the warlord, Elijah, to be tortured. Are you even human? Are you trying to destroy the entire family? Growled Joey, as he caned Michael like a lunatic. Levi soon caught sight of Mia, who was standing there, and he smiled before saying, Mia, come over. You don't need to be on your knees. Mia walked to Levi while everyone else watched. Levi moved aside so that Mia could have a seat. Envy. Everyone on site was envious of the lady who had been offered a seat, right beside the god of war. What a great honor she has received. The Joneses from Southampton were stunned. They had always bullied Mia, but she had become the most powerful individual in the family. Calvin also started regretting his decision. Would things have been even better if I hadn't stopped her from being nice to him? Endless regret filled Calvin's heart. The Joneses tried to kill me twice and troubled my wife twice as well. How shall we settle the score? Asked Levi calmly. Levi's words did not match his calm tone, and they were as domineering as they could get. Thump. Joey was the first one to get down on his knees. Wesley and the other 1,000 Joneses got down as well. That was no longer the Southampton's Jones family's issue. The fate of all the Joneses of Arudia hung on the balance, at that very moment. God of war, we admit our crimes and we are willing to receive our punishment. All we ask is that you let our children go, so that our bloodline doesn't end. Pleaded Joey. The Protector Chapter 886. Levi laughed boisterously. Aren't you Joneses from a noble bloodline? Why are you on your knees now? I honestly feel like whipping you, just to see how you would bleed. Throughout his life, the Joneses had claimed that their bloodline was noble, as they repeatedly called him a bastard, whose blood was tainted by a lower-class clan. Levi had always felt repulsed by such a saying. Suddenly, a sob was heard. Wesley's grandson, Aidan, cried instantly out of fear. Just a moment ago, he was the one who had talked to Levi about having noble blood. Aren't you guys crazy proud? Why are you bowing down to a bastard like me now, hey? Mocked Levi with a grin. We were wrong. Please forgive us. Over 1,000 members of the Jones family were on their knees now, fervently begging for mercy. They banged their heads on the floor to beg, so much so that their heads were bleeding soon. After all they had asked was for Levi to show mercy to their kids. They had simply wanted their bloodline to survive. Everyone turned silent in the next second. They were waiting for Levi to come to a verdict. Mia suddenly spoke up. Levi, please show us some mercy. Won't you give everyone an easier punishment? We are a family, after all. Levi grinned and promised, all right, I'll go easy on them for your sake. Levi then turned to Michael and asked, Michael Jones, will you confess to your crimes and accept your punishments? Yes, I confess. And I'll accept any punishment, even the death penalty. I am not interested in your life. However, I do want you to forego your position as the head of the family. Mia will take over your position from today onwards, and no one is to complain about it. All it took was one word from Levi, to take Michael's position away and hand it over to his least favorite granddaughter. As far as Michael was concerned, that was worse than death. Unfortunately, that was the God of War's order, and Michael had no choice but to obey. The other members of the Jones family stared on, in utter astonishment. Mia Jones, the one who has always been bullied by the family, is the new head of the family? No one could accept that, but they had no choice but to comply. Mia was flabbergasted as well. Me? As the head of the family? Mia, I've investigated you, and you are strategic, smart, and hardworking. You have everything it takes to do this. Also, you can continue to be kind, despite your new position. I will help you in chasing all of the darkness away, promised Levi before he turned to Tyler and the rest. All three of you had hired assassins to kill me, and that alone was enough to subject you to death sentence. However, I will spare you and instead sentence you to life in prison. Ugh! Ugh! Quite a few people vomited blood at that moment. Karma arrived too swiftly, and their punishment was worse than death itself. Anson Jones, you had faked your identity and had claimed to be a king of war. For that, I will rescind your right to be a member of the Jones family. You are on your own now, added Levi. Before he continued, Wesley Jones, you had tried to ambush me using dirty tricks, so you must be punished as well. You will donate half of your estate to charity, and I will have my people monitor everything. So, don't bother trying to get out of it. The rest of the family members will have to donate as well, and I will monitor everything. What happened next was that Levi had begun to punish every sinner within the family. They were fortunate, because Levi wasn't a bloodthirsty monster. If he were, more than half the Joneses would be dead. Levi suddenly recalled something, and he couldn't help ask, by the way, why did all of you call me a bastard? The Protector Chapter 887. Hey? That. All of the Joneses were scared out of their minds. Are we going to be further punished? No, no, we were wrong, please forgive us, pleaded Michael, who was on the verge of crying. If only I had taken the boy in as my grandson. Things would have been so great. Why didn't I treasure that opportunity? I am simply asking you a question. My mother is your daughter, Emma Jones. But you had called me a bastard, so my biological father must have been the one whom you had hated, right? Asked Levi. Levi had always been curious about that. It made sense that the others would call him a bastard, but even the Joneses had called him that. That part was strange. After all, my mom is a member of the Jones family after all. Michael scanned his surroundings before asking, God of War, can we speak? Privately. Michael had thought that there were too many people around. Okay, agreed Levi. Both men walked to a secluded corner after that. God of War, I will now tell you a bit about your mother. She was the most talented and powerful amongst the rest of my children, and I spared no expense to train her to become the next head of the family. I set everything up for her and had even arranged her marriage, but she went to Oakland City right before her wedding and returned pregnant, with you. I was so furious that I had almost killed her. Michael paused when he reached that part of the story. He snuck a peek at Levi. And when he saw that the latter wasn't angry, he continued, I asked her who the father was, but she refused to say anything, not even after I had laid a hand on her. The wedding I had arranged for her was about to take place when her suitor learned that she was pregnant. Rumor spread across the entire city. Everyone knew that your mother had fallen pregnant out of wedlock and that the father of her child was not her fiancé. Hence, they called the baby a bastard. She had brought shame to the family, and I had chased her out of the family, in a fit of anger. That is why the Joneses view you as their enemy. This isn't about you. They are angry at your mother. Levi then asked, tell me, was my mother okay with you arranging her marriage? She wasn't thrilled. Okay, she wasn't happy about it at all. She had said that she had wanted to fight for her own happiness and marry someone whom she loved. She had also claimed that she was willing to forego everything, even her life, to be with your father, murmured Michael. Then she is not at fault. You are, growled Levi cruelly. How is it wrong to fight for her own happiness? Why do the others think that it's right to call her a b*tch for that? Furthermore, how does that make her son a bastard? Levi's heart stirred. He finally understood that his mother had her reason for not looking for him. Her life had been terrible, and she was no better off than he was. Is my mother still alive? The Protector Chapter 888. Initially, Levi wasn't concerned about his birth parents at all. They didn't come looking for him, so he pretended that they didn't exist either. Everyone could have acted like the strangers that they were meant to be. After hearing his mother's sorrowful tale, Levi became touched and soon, his heart was stirred. They had their reasons for abandoning me. That made Levi curious about his parents. Yet, she's alive, but her life is worse than death, replied Michael. My mother is living in a terrible condition? Levi's eyes darkened. He endured his hardship and rose to the top, but his mother might not have been able to do as he had. In fact, she might still be suffering right now. Michael's words gripped Levi's heart, and it ached. A life worse than death? What is that supposed to mean? Demanded Levi. We had thought that your birth father was merely an ordinary man and that your mother had gotten in bed with a random stranger to get pregnant, to disrupt the wedding. As it turned out, your birth father was a powerful man as well. The Joneses were not a match against him, in fact, even the most powerful family in Southampton, the Goel family, was mere ants to him. Even now, all we know, is that he is from Oakland City and that his surname is Garrison, claimed Michael as he sighed. Hey? Even you can't learn anything about him, blurted Levi, who was rather delighted to hear about it. The Jones family was pretty prominent, yet they couldn't even get much information about the guy. Is my birth father really that powerful? I should have Phoenix look into the matter and see just how powerful he is. Keep talking, ordered Levi. Not long after I'd chased your mother out of the family, an elite fighter visited the Joneses and killed over 100 of our men. As it turned out, he had just arrived to warn me not to contact your birth mother ever again. He said that if I had done so, the entire family would have been Annihilated too. He also ordered us to keep the news about your mother's pregnancy a secret. We were not to let anyone else find out about it. What's strange, is that after that night, South Hampton lost all traces of your mother's existence. It was as if she was never here in the first place, shared Michael sadly. He can cover up a trending rumor within a night. That is pretty impressive. My birth father did all that? Asked Levi. Yes, or to be more accurate, your birth father's family did that. Their motive was simple. Your birth father's family was too powerful, and as far as they were concerned, your mother was no different from an unworthy villager. She would have simply brought shame to their family if she had married into it. I still remember the exact message that individual had sent both me and your mother, explained Michael as he laughed mockingly at himself. He said, Emma Jones, you are from a horrid bloodline and you are not worthy of my son or my family. You will never be my daughter-in-law, so you can forget all about it. Also, the child in your womb is nothing but a bastard. Giving birth to him will merely taint my family's legacy. The Protector Chapter 889. Boom. Michael sensed a horrifying aura, as soon as he had finished speaking. Levi was furious. Bloodline again? What freaking noble bloodline is this now? Also, how do they even divide? Humans? I don't give a sh*t about all the other countries, but everyone in Arudaya is born equal. Everyone has a head and 2 arms, don't we? What? They have an extra one or something. And how is their blood nobler? It's not like they bleed gold. Freaking hell, I will murder every idiot who talks about bloodlines from now on. Continue, instructed Levi. It was obvious that your birth father's family were discriminated against your mother and they had refused to allow her to marry into the family. It didn't matter that she was pregnant at the time. They refused to let her join the family, and they certainly weren't going to recognize the child as one of their own. Your birth father's family only had one mission after that, and that was to make your mother experience a miscarriage. They refused to allow the child to be born. Because, as far as they were concerned, the tainted bastard had no right to live, relayed Michael. Levi chuckled. Oh, so I was almost killed before I was born, hey? What happened next? Why didn't my mom get an abortion? Asked Levi. Your mom begged them to let you live and fought to give birth to you. She had even claimed that she was willing to kill herself so that you could live. All she ever wanted was for them to let you live. Your birth father's family later requested for your mom to kneel in front of their house for 3 continuous days. Only then did they agree to spare both you and your mother's life. Levi felt tears swirling in his eyes when he heard that part of the story. Every parent loved their child, and they would not abandon their child unless they didn't have a choice in the matter. There is no such thing as a heartless parent. Hell, even a cruel tiger won't eat its own cub. At that moment, Levi understood that his mother had never abandoned him. It was quite the opposite. She sacrificed everything for him. Evidently, his mother's greatest gift to him was his life and making sure that he had survived. She would even sacrifice her life just so I could live. Mother, murmured Levi as his lips trembled. He then asked, what happened next? Your mother actually knelt in front of the house, and the gods showed no mercy. It rained heavily for 3 whole days, and your mother was drenched the entire time. She persisted and survived through it, but her body had also reached its limit, shared Michael, who was also tearing up, as he recalled the painful past. Despite everything, she was still his daughter. After that incident, she was left with dozens of medical complications that couldn't be completely treated. She aged a decade within 3 days, and her muscles would ache every time it rained. The doctor said that the trauma her body had endured had shortened her life span by about 30 years, admitted Michael, who couldn't keep going. Mother, blurted Levi as he clenched his fists. The Protector Chapter 890. A pregnant lady had kneeled under the heavy rain for 3 continuous days. How strong did she have to be, to kneel for so long under those circumstances? She had gone through all of that, just to protect her child. That was unimaginable and unbelievable. A weak woman would turn strong when she became a mother. That was just how a mother was. She was merely an ordinary mother amongst the thousands of mothers on earth. It seemed that parents could transform into heavenly angels when their kids were threatened. A parent would keep the sky afloat just to shelter their children. There are no gods in this world, but there are plenty of regular parents who would do anything for their children. Michael wiped his tears aside and continued, in the end, your birth father's family kept to the end of their bargain, to allow both you and your mother live, but they had one condition. Hey? What was it? Asked Levi. You were allowed to be born, but your mother must not have been one who would raise you. Instead, you were to be abandoned, to the street, and your mother was not to contact you at all. Their reasoning was simple. The kid must not have been traced back to their family. They had cut the ties from the source, so that you would remain nothing but an orphan, abandoned by both of your parents. Your mother had to agree to their terms so that you could live. After giving birth to you, she abandoned you at a random spot. We didn't think that you'd end up on the streets of Northampton, adopted by members of the Garrison family who had lived there. Mother, whispered Levi as he clenched his fists. He stomped his foot in anger, and the marble floor under their feet had cracked. The spider web-like pattern spread across the floor, until every inch was practically shattered. The scary bit was that over 100 men could stand on the floor without damaging it, but Levi's stomp had managed to do as such. The mere sight of Levi's strength surprised Michael and the others. Is he even human? Levi was touched to know that his mother did so much just so he could live. It could be said that she had dedicated her entire life to him. They hadn't seen each other in decades, but that only happened so he could merely survive. He truly believed that his mother was living in a random corner of the earth, missing him dearly, every day. She must miss her birth son a lot, especially after such a long while. What happened to my mother afterwards? I'm guessing that the Garrison family of Oakland City wouldn't have allowed her to leave that easily, asked Levi. You're right about that. To keep your identity a secret, they had to remove all traces of your existence, and the same goes for your mother. The Garrison family hated loose ends. What if your mother showed up at the family manor one day or suddenly decided to announce her existence? The Garrison family didn't want that to happen, and they refused to risk it, informed Michael. So? What did they do? Demanded Levi as he held his breath. Michael replied, they imprisoned your mother and allowed her to rot there. To make matters worse, she was imprisoned for life and she was not allowed to take one step out of that place. The Protector Chapter 891. Levi hissed before he growled, that is truly cruel. The Garrison family locked your mother up, to keep her away from the rest of the world. They wanted to make it seem like your mother had never existed, so that she would never appear to have had any connections with their family, informed Michael. And my mom just stayed put and never stepped out of the city, asked Levi. From what he had come to learn about his mother, there was no way that Emma Jones would ever come to fear death. She is the kind of person who would ignore everything and come looking for me, anyway. The fact that she never did, meant that there was another issue. She had never left because the Garrison family had placed a tombstone in the yard, where your mother had lived, announced Michael. A tombstone? Whose grave is it? Asked Levi, who didn't understand what Michael had meant. Yours. The name carved on the tombstone is Levi Garrison. The tombstone served to remind your mother that if she ever dared to step out of the place, the Garrison family would hunt you down and kill you. It prevented her from searching for you, or from exposing the Garrison family's secret, answered Michael. Oh, the Garrison family is cruel indeed, commented Levi, who couldn't help but crack his knuckles. That is why you and your mother's identity was never exposed, even though it has been decades. It was as if the Garrison family never had any connections to either one of you, informed Michael as he grinned bitterly. Levi suddenly thought of something, and he couldn't help but ask, and what about my birth father? What did he do while my mother was suffering? Why didn't he stop them? How is he okay with my mom kneeling in the rain for 3 continuous days, getting imprisoned for the rest of her life? My mom loved him, didn't she? So he must have loved her dearly as well. Right. Levi was curious about what his biological dad had done, the entire time. Your father remained silent, throughout the entire incident. He let his family take care of matters, while he stood at the side and ignored everything. He watched, as your mother suffered, and he never once voiced up for her, responded Michael to Levi. Levi's fist clenched, and fury burned in his soul when he heard that. How can my biological father be that cruel? What kind of man is he? And to think that my mother had loved him so much. The reason he had kept silent was simple. He was the sole heir of his family, and if he had spoken on behalf of your mother, his family would have taken away his rights to inherit everything. Hell, they might have even disowned him. That is why he had chosen to remain quiet, merely standing idly by. All that, just for his personal gain and money, insulted Michael. Boom. Levi was so angry that he had gone borderline insane, upon hearing what Michael had said. My mother was willing to die for me, whereas that a whole abandoned his family for money. The Protector Chapter 892. How can anyone be that cruel? Mom was too blinded by love and she didn't see him right. A man like that is not worthy of her love. She had gotten pregnant because of him, and she had given birth to his son, while he remained distant and ignored everything. What about after? Did he visit my mother even once? Demanded Levi. No, not even once. Naturally, the Garrison family wouldn't allow him to do so, even if he had wanted to, informed Michael. Humph, as expected. It would be weird if a guy like him had actually visited, growled Levi. Let me share something else with you. Your birth father had married another woman and had started another family right after his family had finished dealing with both you and your mother, muttered Michael, whose words had succeeded in getting Levi's jaw to drop. What? He had married another woman and had another child, blurted Levi in disbelief. Humph, that's right. If I've done the proper calculations, the child should be merely 2 years younger than you. The woman he had married was the daughter of another wealthy family. And the Garrison family regarded their marriage as the unification of 2 noble bloodlines. They supposedly had the best genes and had produced the most powerful heir, scoffed Michael. Michael knew that Levi had hated it, when others had spoken about noble blood, so the former deliberately used those words. Noble bloodline my a. We're all just humans, aren't we? What? Can that a hole fly or something? Roared Levi. Bang! Levi was so angry that he had punched a boulder at the side, successfully pulverizing it. Michael was stunned, because Levi was truly furious at that moment. It's bad enough that the man had abandoned both his lover and his child, but marrying Another woman and having another child immediately after? That is merely infuriating. Levi had never felt anger like that before. It has been decades. Has he no conscience? Does he even remember that he has a child, whom he has abandoned, along with a woman who is suffering because of him? Just you wait. I, Levi Garrison, swear that I will find you. I will have you answer to all the pain and suffering that my mother has endured, swore Levi, as his eyes shone with determination. Sooner or later, I will kick the Garrison family's front door down, and I will take my mother with me. We will stand in front of that monster and make him regret everything he has done. By the way, do you know where my mother is locked up? Asked Levi, who had desperately wanted to meet his mother. Michael shook his head and replied, I don't know where she is either. I only know that she is locked up, but the Garrison family won't tell us the exact location. Fine, I will investigate on my own. She is Levi Garrison's mother, and she can go anywhere that she wants. No one would dare to stop her, announced Levi, as his entire body exuded a domineering aura. It was the type of aura that could the reality itself. Michael would assume that the guy was bullsh*ting, if he were anyone else, but the guy standing right there was Levi Garrison. No one dared to question his words and his promise. The Joneses' anniversary meeting ended, after Levi and Michael had returned. Everyone left. Levi had Phoenix locate his mother's prison after that. The Protector Chapter 893. Phoenix started looking for Emma Jones immediately after that. It is a little tough to crack. Someone covered everything up to prevent anyone from locating her. This will take some time, admitted Phoenix as he frowned. Levi gritted his teeth. My birth father's family truly is powerful. The fact that Phoenix is having trouble tracing everything can only mean that the Garrisons had done an impressive job covering everything up. Levi strode around Edberg Manor and asked Mia to show him the place where his mother had used to reside in. It was a small, separated villa. Everything inside was fine, and it was clear that it had been cleaned regularly. Grandpa had actually loved Aunt Emma the most, and he had kept everything in her room. Maintained, explained Mia as she sighed. Levi didn't reply. He understood that Michael was a father after all, and that Michael had only treated Emma so poorly because he was afraid of the Garrison family from Oakland City. Levi scanned every corner of the place, to find a trace of his mother's past. She is Levi Garrison's mother after all, and she has to be welcomed. Anyone who had dared to imprison her is an enemy of the god of war. Levi was lost in his thoughts while sitting in that room, when Zoe had suddenly called him. Zoe was still furious about the incident, but she was also worried that the Joneses might have bullied Levi, so she called to ask how he was faring. The anniversary meeting is over, right? When will you be home? Asked Zoe, whose tone remained distant. However, Levi grinned when he heard that, because it was evident that she was worried about him. I have to deal with some matters here, but I will be back soon. That's fine. I'm hanging up now. Zoe hung up without saying or wasting another word. Levi's grin became brighter. That idiot of mine is obviously still upset. Just then, an incident happened at the Edberg Manor's front door. 8 men carried a coffin and walked in. Bang! The coffin was placed at the front door. The Joneses' security guard rushed over and had the men surrounded immediately. Oi! What are you guys doing here? The security guard soon caught the emblem engraved on the men's uniform, making the security guard begin to tremble. The emblem signified a powerful family in Southampton. Tell the B-starred, Levi Garrison, that the Gonzalez family has given his mother, the BTCH Emma Jones, a coffin. They wish her a lifetime of suffering, and for her to continue being a B*tch in her next life, announced the leader of the men, who had carried the coffin. The men left immediately, upon delivering both the message and the gift. The security guards were flabbergasted, as they stared at the coffin dubiously. Someone actually gave Emma Jones a coffin and had called Levi a B****. The Joneses had learned of Levi's true identity by then, so they were all rightfully terrified. No one knew what dire consequences were awaiting the people who had sent the coffin and insulted the man. The security guards turned to one another before they ran in to deliver the message. "Something terrible has happened! Something terrible has happened!" Troubled screams echoed throughout the Edberg Manor. That was definitely a terrible situation that had to be reported, without any form of delay. Michael soon received the news, and he went to Levi immediately. "God of War, something terrible has happened," informed Michael, in a grim manner. The Protector Chapter 894. Levi asked, "What's going on? Come with me." Michael led him to the front gates of the house. Seeing the coffin that lay beside the gate, Levi's eyes grew cold. He demanded, "What is the meaning of this? Is this for me?" "No, it's for your mother," they had said. "Here." Michael hesitated and shook with fright, too afraid to repeat what he had heard just now. "Say it," Levi ordered, raising his voice in a menacing manner. Gritting his teeth, Michael replied, "The Gonzales had arrived with a message for you, there. Bastard child Levi Garrison. They've sent your mother this coffin to congratulate her on being a wretch, and they had mentioned that they would pray that she would continue to be a wretch in her next life." Immediately, everyone felt the tension in the room rise. The temperature seemed to drop by a few degrees Celsius. A chill shot down the spines of the onlookers. Levi stared frostily at Michael. "Back then, you had arranged for a marriage between my mother and the son of the Gonzales family, right?" Michael nodded. "That's right. I had betrothed your mother to Klaus Gonzales, back when she was still alive. When Klaus Gonzales had discovered that your mother was pregnant, he had nearly killed her. He had announced her pregnancy to the whole of Southampton and had humiliated your mother for being a sl*t and an adulteress. He had even told everyone that you were a bastard child. When news of your mother's pregnancy got out, your mother and the Jones family became the butt of Southampton's cruel jokes. Every day, people would leave all sorts of trash outside our house, vandalizing our walls with filthy words. At that time, the Jones family had lost all respect in Southampton, and your mother was their biggest source of their shame. Whenever she appeared in public, people would hurl vulgarities and even throw things at her." Levi sucked in a deep breath. "So all of this has been caused by the Gonzales family?" "Exactly. When he had found out that your mother was pregnant, Klaus Gonzales had only one thing on his mind: to destroy both your mother and the Joneses. He would have liked nothing more than to see your mother become the shame of Southampton, and for everyone to remember her as a wh**re. Michael announced. Levi mused aloud, how cruel. He had put her through so much physical and mental torture. If the Garrison family hadn't issued a stern warning, your mother's story would still be floating around in the city today, Michael admitted. Levi changed the topic. So now Klaus Gonzales wants to change the target of his anger and use me to carry out his revenge instead. Michael looked down and shook slightly. As far as we know, that's probably the case. The Gonzales family are aware that you have returned, so they're taking this chance to get their revenge on you. Michael laughed silently to himself. What a pity. The Gonzales family has chosen the wrong person to pick on. Levi is a demon king. The Gonzales family would be so shocked if they knew that the bastard child that they were talking about was the god of war. Suddenly, Levi threw his head back and burst into a fit of laughter. The Gonzalez family wants to provoke me? I must hand it to them. They have got some courage. The Protector Chapter 895. Hearing this, everyone in the Jones family knew what was going to befall the Gonzalez family. They could have picked a fight with anyone. Why did they have to choose Levi? Levi continued, how does this Claus Gonzalez like? There must have been a reason behind my mother's reluctance to marry him. Claus Gonzalez hesitated before admitting, yes, there was a reason behind your mother's actions. Claus had a reputation for being quite the playboy back then. He used to do nothing but fool around with his parents' money all day long. Your mother had even witnessed him sleeping with another woman, with her very own eyes. Here, Michael didn't dare to continue further. Sensing Levi's anger, he bowed his head and remained silent. Levi asked angrily, even while knowing this, you had chosen to marry my mother to this man. I had no choice in the matter. Marriages in clans like ours are largely decided by the elders in the family, and neither your mother nor I had a say in it. Besides, Claus had taken a liking to your mother and had insisted on marrying her. I couldn't reject his offer. Back then, I'd agreed to allow your mother to marry him because I had hoped that an alliance between our families would be beneficial to us, the Joneses. However, that was the biggest mistake I had ever made in my entire life. Michael gave out a huge sigh. Is the Gonzalez family very powerful? Levi asked. To the best of his knowledge, the most powerful royal family in Southampton was the Goel family. They're powerful, very powerful. Zabian Goel might be the most famous in Southampton, but he's nowhere near being the strongest. Michael sucked in a deep breath. The most powerful forces in Southampton is actually the Restaurant of Peace, started by the Three Musketeers and Osborne St. Jacques. Levi pressed forth imperiously, well, tell me more about it. Michael explained, the Restaurant of Peace has existed since a very long time ago. There's a legend in Southampton, saying, that any criminal, no matter how heinous his crimes, is safe, once he enters that restaurant. No one will be able to punish him, regardless of their position in society. Levi was incredulous. Can the Restaurant of Peace really grant amnesty to criminals? If I go into that restaurant after killing hundreds of people, will I be safe? Can nobody touch me? Michael nodded. Yes, that's right. Hence, everyone regards the Restaurant of Peace as the strongest forces in Southampton. Levi smiled. Wow, it must be a restaurant of great reputation then. Continue. The second most powerful group of people in Southampton are the Three Musketeers. The first musketeer is Lionel Gonzalez, and the second musketeer is Richie Fulmer. Finally, the last musketeer is Perseus Emile. Claus Gonzalez is the son of Lionel Gonzalez. That's why I'd gone ahead with the marriage, despite my own misgivings. Michael was very clear about how powerful the Gonzalez family was. Levi smiled. By sending this coffin to your doorstep, isn't the Gonzalez family trying to announce how poorly they regard the Jones family? Exactly. The Gonzalez family doesn't even humble itself before the Goel family sometimes. Of course, they aren't going to care about a small clan like us, Michael replied carefully. Hence, this year's anniversary meeting was extremely important. Michael wanted to take the opportunity to climb the ranks for his family. Levi gritted his teeth. I don't care how powerful the Gonzalez family is. Since they'd humiliated my mother in the past, I'm going to get my revenge. The Protector Chapter 896. At that moment, a discussion was taking place at the prestigious Azure Dragon Villa, in the suburbs of Southampton. The entrance of the villa was carefully guarded by an elite squad of more than 100 security guards. It was impossible for anyone to get in without being noticed. The three musketeers had gathered up that day, for a game of cards in the drawing room. All three of them were ancient and white-haired, but they still appeared energetic and vigorous. From time to time, a keen, insidious look flashed in their eyes, which was enough to make anyone shiver in fear. Aside from the three old men, another middle-aged man was present. He was attired in very expensive clothes, and he had evidently paid careful attention to his appearance. There was nothing about him that could be considered greasy or old-fashioned. This man was Claus Gonzalez. On the surface, he looked to be a nice, scholarly gentleman. Many even mistook him for a university professor at times. However, he was truthfully a merciless tyrant. At that moment, a young man ran into the room. "Father, the coffin has been delivered to the Jones family's house." This man was Claus's son, Paulie Gonzalez. Claus laughed gleefully. "Good, good." Lionel asked curiously, "Paulie, Claus, what are you talking about?" "Father, the Jones family has found Emma Jones's bastard son recently. He had even attended their anniversary meeting." Claus responded immediately. With a loud bang, Lionel slammed his cards onto the table, enraged. Angrily, he hissed, "What? They had found Emma Jones's bastard son, and the Joneses had even allowed him to attend their anniversary meeting." Richie Fulmer and Perseus Emil had recovered from their shock as well. Immediately, they started to rant and rave about the situation. What does Michael mean by this? Does he wish to disrespect the three musketeers in such a manner? Exactly. By inviting that bastard child to their anniversary meeting, he's officially acknowledging the boy as his grandson. Are the Joneses trying to humiliate the three of us? Are they tired of living? The three musketeers had good reason to be angry. More than 20 years ago, Emma Jones's pregnancy had caused an indelible stain on all three of their reputations. Back then, they were intent on murdering Emma Jones and killing her unborn child too. In the end, the Joneses had disinherited Emma. She had disappeared into the bowels of Southampton, and the child had become an orphan. The three musketeers had thought that this had been the end of the matter. Now that the Jones family had welcomed the boy back with open arms, the three musketeers felt as though they had been slapped in the face. Of course they were mad. They had every right to be. In any case, her bastard son is now living in the Jones family's Edinburgh Manor. This means that they've acknowledged his status within the family. Claus continued, "Just now, I had gotten Polly to deliver a coffin to the Jones family's residence." Furious, Lionel snapped, "That's hardly enough to warn them. Polly, go to the Jones family's residence and ask Michael Jones what he means by all of this. I want him to kneel before the three musketeers and give us a proper explanation for his actions." Back at gates of Edinburgh Manor, Levi and the others were still discussing what they should do with the coffin. At that moment, a few cars pulled up to the gate. The door opened, and a slew of bodyguards exited the vehicle, their bodies completely shielding a young man who looked to be the son of a rich clan. When they saw the man, the Joneses' faces changed. The moment he got out of the car, Paulie Gonzalez yelled, "Which one of you is the bastard? Son Levi Garrison." The Protector Chapter 897. Levi stood at the gates of Edinburgh Manor, staring coldly at him. The Joneses were frightened to death. Paulie Gonzalez was either really foolish or really brave. How could he call Levi Garrison a bastard son to his face? If Levi decided to take revenge, even God wouldn't be able to save him. Mia Jones walked forward and whispered timidly into Levi's ear, "That's Paulie Gonzalez, the son of Claus Gonzalez." Upon realizing Paulie's true status, a frosty expression flashed across Levi's face. He stared unblinkingly at Polly, as though considering his next move. Michael yelled, "Polly Gonzalez, how dare you come and stir up trouble in front of the Jones residence when you're junior to all of us here?" Nonchalantly, Polly stuck his hands into his pockets. Looking tauntingly at Michael, he replied, "Michael, are you questioning me? What right do you even have to do that? You?" Michael was so angry that steam was practically blowing out of his ears. He would have swallowed his anger if the three musketeers had been the ones castigating him. However, there was no way he could stomach being disciplined by a member of the younger generation. Polly continued brazenly, "Michael, my three grandfathers have demanded that you give them a proper explanation as to why you've accepted Emma Jones's bastard son back into the Jones family. Are you acknowledging him as one of your own?" Michael yelled, "Yes, and what about it? By acknowledging that boy as one of your own, your family clearly means to insult the three musketeers. My grandfathers want you to kneel before them and give them a proper explanation." Polly yelled in response. Michael retorted, "That's not going to happen." In the past, Michael would never have dared to say something so outrageous. However, now that he had Levi's backing, he was no longer afraid of the three musketeers. Furious, Polly spat, "Good on you, Michael. Are you openly declaring war on us? I'll tell my grandfathers exactly what you've said. Let's see if your family will live until tomorrow morning." However, before he left, Polly asked, "Where's the bastard son Levi Garrison? Has he hidden himself away, out of fright?" As soon as he spoke, Levi stepped out of the crowd and walked towards him. Seeing him, Polly asked with contempt, "So you're the bastard son Levi Garrison?" Levi didn't reply. Suddenly, he lunged forward and gave Polly a tight slap across his face. With a loud smack, Polly's cheeks started bleeding profusely, as a few of his loose teeth began to fly out of his mouth. An odd silence fell over the entire crowd. Polly's bodyguards were so stunned that they couldn't react on time. Clawing at his bleeding face, Polly screamed at Levi, "How dare you hit me, you filthy bastard!" What followed was a series of horrifying clicks, as Levi lunged at him and delivered powerful kicks to his leg. In a flash, Polly's legs had been broken. He staggered and collapsed before Levi. With another loud crack, Levi broke both of Polly's arms. Polly lay on the floor, his limbs completely broken. Like a pig in a slaughterhouse, he screamed in pain. At that moment, Polly's bodyguards finally snapped out of their daze. "Kill him!" The Protector Chapter 898. In a flash, Levi had managed to break all of their limbs as well. Polly and his bodyguards were laying on the ground, groaning in pain. Levi ordered, "Someone put this man into the coffin, and send it back to Mr. Claus Gonzalez." Back in Azure Dragon, the three musketeers and Claus were still playing their cards. At that moment, someone ran into the room, looking extremely frightened. "Sirs, something horrible has happened. The Jones family has sent the coffin back to us, and Mr. Polly isn't back yet." "What?" The three musketeers and Claus hurried outside to take a look. Seeing the coffin by the gates, Claus exploded in anger. "The Jones family must be crazy. How dare they send the coffin back to us?" Just then, they heard a distinct sob as someone hammered against the walls of the coffin. Claus's expression morphed into one of panic. "I think that there's someone inside the coffin. Open it up quickly." When they finally managed to pry open the lid of the coffin, they found Polly Gonzalez lying in it. His entire body was covered in blood, and all four of his limbs had been broken. He looked up at them, sobbing piteously. The three musketeers and Claus gasped. Immediately, their expressions changed into that of anger. How dare the Jones family break Polly's limbs and send him back in a coffin? Wasn't that a direct challenge to them? Was that an effort to taunt them? Seeing his son's pitiful figure, Klaus felt his heart convulse with pain. You Joneses will pay for this. The three musketeers were so angry that you could practically see steam coming out of their ears. How dare the Joneses do this to us? Even the Goel family, the most prominent family of Southampton, wouldn't have the balls to do such a thing. The onlookers hurriedly lifted Polly out of the coffin. Who did this to you, son? Asked Klaus. It was that bastard son of Emma Jones, Levi Garrison, spat Polly. He would never forget his grudge against Levi Garrison. He swore to himself that he would devote the rest of his life to getting his revenge on Levi. Lionel Gonzalez fumed, the Jones family must be crazy. How dare they allow their bastard son to injure my grandson like this? Polly burst into tears. My three grandfathers, and my father, you must exact revenge for me, or I'll never be able to swallow this anger for the rest of my life. He nearly killed me by sticking me into that coffin. He's warning us that we will die by his hands. Lionel replied angrily, we will definitely seek vengeance. How dare the Jones family behave in such a preposterous manner? I'll have to destroy their entire family. Beside him, Richie Fulmer and Perseus Emil seethed along with him. Klaus jumped in. Father, uncles, don't be angry. I'll settle this matter by myself. I'm going to go to demand an explanation from Michael Jones right now. All right. Make sure that you bring enough men with you. Soon enough, a large group of people had assembled in front of the gates of Jones' residence. All of them were clothed in black, and a few words had been sewn onto their clothes: Gonzalez, Fulmer, and Emil. These people had been sent by the three musketeers. There were hundreds of them, and they lined up in neat rows outside of Jones' residence, surrounding the gates completely. In the middle of them all, Klaus stood in his white clothes, appearing immediately recognizable. He hollered, Michael Jones and Levi Garrison, come out at once. The Protector Chapter 899. Soon, Michael walked out into the open, with Levi Garrison in tow. Levi was interested to see Klaus Gonzalez for himself. When the Joneses saw the crowd of people descending upon them, they started to panic. If it weren't for Levi, they would unquestionably be trampled over without a second thought. Klaus and his men really did look extremely intimidating. Klaus yelled in anger the moment he had spotted Michael. Michael Jones, look at what you've done. However, Michael merely chuckled in response. Oh? And what have I done, Klaus? Don't you dare call me that. You had better explain yourself for what you've done to my son, bellowed Klaus. Michael smirked. Your son ran his mouth and insulted others, so he was taught a little lesson. You should really spend more time teaching your son how to behave, Mr. Gonzalez. Because if you don't, someone else will certainly educate him for you. Klaus was thoroughly peeved. How insolent! Neither I nor my father has ever disciplined this precious son of mine. So what gives others the right to even touch a single hair on his body? Just who gave you the right to discipline my child, Michael? Michael's smirk only deepened. Actually, I wasn't the one who had disciplined him. He had insulted someone he wasn't supposed to. And so, that person kindly took it upon himself to teach your son a lesson. It was Levi Garrison, wasn't it? Get him out here right now. At that moment, a calm voice cut through the tension. I'm right here. When Klaus identified Levi, he nearly blew a gasket. This is that BHS son? He forced his anger down before speaking again. What's this? You Joneses actually welcomed Emma's son back into the family? Does this mean that you're acknowledging him as one of yours? Michael didn't dare to answer on Levi's behalf, so he glanced at the younger man instead. He mentally heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Levi giving him an affirmative nod. It appeared that he was okay with being formally known as Emma's son. That's right. He's now here with the Joneses, which means that we're acknowledging his birthright. He is indeed my daughter's son, declared Michael firmly. Klaus glared at him angrily. You do know that you are blatantly insulting me by doing this. Michael scoffed, just what has any of this got to do with you? It's not like you're related to him anyway. Emma was my fiancée back then, but she had slept with some other man and had given birth to this bastard. What about my reputation, hey? That BH has already humiliated me. Enough, and now you Joneses are going to pile on, roared Klaus. Your fiancée? The only reason she became your fiancée was because you had forced me to marry her off to you. All because you took a liking to her, retorted Michael. Fine. Say what you will. You have the balls, I'll give you that, Michael. But aren't you afraid that a certain someone will come after you? They ensured that the Joneses, including Emma, broke all ties with that bastard child back then, but now you're so flagrantly welcoming him back? What do you think is going to happen to you when they find out? The Protector Chapter 900. Klaus' words sent a chill through Michael. The image of that man descending upon the Joneses' residence 20 years ago and easily wiping out all of their bodyguards flashed across his eyes, and goosebumps broke out all over his body. But Levi was by his side now, so he had nothing to fear. What do I have to be afraid of? We Joneses can take anything that comes our way, announced Michael coldly. Fine then. So you insist on acknowledging Emma's bastard son? Even if it means going against the Gonzalez family? Yes, that's right. A bloodthirsty glint flashed across Klaus' eyes. Then, the Joneses will no longer have a place in Southampton. What did you just say? It was Levi who spoke up just then, and it took Klaus very much by surprise. How dare Emma's bastard son talk back to me? I said, your mother is a BH and that literally makes you a son of a BH. Also, were you the one who had crippled my son? Seethed Klaus. Levi, with a completely unbothered expression, slowly made his way over to Klaus. I'll make you pay for hurting my son. I'll make you pay tenfold, nay, 100-fold, affirmed Klaus as he glared at him. Soon enough, Levi walked right up to Klaus and stared him down. Did you just call me a son of a BH and a bastard? Yes, that's right. You're a bastard, and your mother is a BH. Your whole family is nothing but trash, spat Klaus. His hatred for Levi knew no bounds. For the past 30 years, his resentment towards Emma had not only not decreased, but rather, it had also grown exponentially. That was one humiliation that he could never live down. Klaus wanted nothing more than to kill Emma with his own two hands. But unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to do so. So when he heard that Emma's bastard son had been brought back to the Joneses, he became so enraged that he yearned to end Levi too. The son should bear the mother's burden, and so Levi needed to pay for his mother's sins. Thus, he immediately ordered a coffin and had it delivered. Slap! A slap from Levi brought Klaus out of his reverie. It was such a hard slap that the skin on Klaus' face immediately split open. Blood spurted everywhere, and even a number of teeth fell out of his mouth. Just one slap was enough for Klaus to feel as though half of his life force had been slapped away. He stood there in a complete daze, not able to move even an inch. The men around him, as skilled as they were, didn't even have a chance to react. Slap! 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 Unfortunately, that slap was only just the beginning, because Levi then followed on with a dozen more. After the tens of slaps, Claus' face no longer even resembled a face, and he was barely hanging on by a thread. Claus crumpled onto the ground, shocking everyone. No one had expected Levi to act so ruthlessly. "This is what you get for insulting both me and my mother," stated Levi in an almost bored tone. "Men! Kill them! Wipe out every last member of the Jones family," ordered Claus through gritted teeth. Immediately, hundreds of men dressed in black surged forward.